that he had brought with him had to go to the hospital with the other gentleman that he had brought because the guy did a move over the top rope and ended up knocking himself out completely, and he had to be revived. Thankfully, he was okay, and I got the opportunity to referee the Ron Hunt's match, and it was absolutely amazing. We got Kenny Bolin coming on. We got the high spot segment. We got the shooting shot segment. We got the challenge. We got the fantasy wrestling segment. Oh my goodness. We got too much going on, ladies and gentlemen. Way too much stuff going on. It's going to be a crazy night. It's going to go by fast. But bear with us because I guarantee you will not be upset that you joined the Wrestle Talk. The man, the myth, the legend, the Night Owl.
¿Qué pasa? ¿Qué pasa? ¿Qué pasa? Loyal members of the Wrestle Talk family. It is your boy, the Night Owl, checking in from the heartland of the Midwest, good old Kansas City, alongside my partner in crime, repping the Mountaineers, my man, Nightmare Jones. Jonesy, ¿qué pasa, my brother? How you doing tonight, bro?
I am doing great. I am doing absolutely amazing. Tonight is going to be a great night, and then tomorrow I get to see Avengers Endgame. Now, it's going to be a late movie, but I'm still going to be able to see Avengers Endgame, and then I have a completely booked weekend where I am helping out with it's called a terrain race, and I'm actually getting paid for it. So, you know, you can't beat cheering people on and getting paid for it at the same time.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, I call that winner chicken dinner, my friend. Congratulations to you on the gig. I know that we talked about this a little bit before, but your wrestling schedule is also picking up a little bit. And I did see you say something about Phoenix Pro going away. Before we get too far into today's show, Carl Lewis, the High Spot segment, and all our wonderful guests and callers, tell us a little bit about that, Jonesy.
Okay, well, in order to talk about that, you have to go back 2 years in the making.
Okay.
This is like, you got Eclipse Wrestling, who was ran by Xavier Diamond and AC Norway and Xavier Manningham, and things happened, and next thing you know, AC Norway gives up his shares of Eclipse Wrestling to bring in Phoenix Pro into the same building that Eclipse Wrestling is at. And that caused a lot of issues. The next thing you know, you've got a group called Home Invasion coming in. They're taking everybody out. Home Invasion ends up being Manic and Tyler Caton and Xavier Diamond, and that started the whole Dishonor. Dishonor's only mission is to end Phoenix Pro. And at the last show, Phoenix Pro, both anniversary, it was Dishonor versus Phoenix Pro. If Phoenix Pro won, then Dishonor would have to be disbanded. But if Dishonor won, then Phoenix Pro would have to go away. Would have to be, would have to end. And it all ended with AC Norway, who was like the biggest factor in Dishonor. Like, this guy was like the most hated person, that was going against Dishonor. He was the only person that was, it was always AC Norway against Dishonor. And at the end of the night, he ended up turning on the Phoenix Pro fans and joining Dishonor and help Dishonor destroy Phoenix Pro.
Wow, dude.
That's all that in a nutshell.
That's crazy, bro. And I appreciate you bringing us all up to speed and the happenings over at Phoenix Pro. Shout out to those guys for all the love, as always. Well, I'll tell you what, Jonesy, I want to get into that and a whole lot more in tonight's episode of the Wrestle Talk podcast, man. And you know what, man? I'm particularly excited and wanted to send a special shout out To our boy Jay Hollywood and Pat Milicic for all their wonderful success over there with Combat Everything or Everything Combat and the Conspiracy Farm. They're doing big things. They're going to be starting a radio network. Obviously, you know, they can always count on our support. They've been great supporters of us for a long time now. So I just wanted to give them a super, super duper special shout out. Also wanted to shout out esports, man. You know, we had that wonderful event, Universe Mania 5, just a couple of weeks ago over at esports in Shawnee, Kansas, man. B Will, the owner, is actually having a birthday bash this Saturday. So if you guys aren't going to go to a wrestling show and you're here in the Kansas City area, make sure you visit our boy B Will over at esports, man, doing big, big things. And then last but not least, Jonesy, you know, we've come a long way here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. And there's a couple of things that were big, let's just say, markers in the history of the show. And one of those is when we got our very first ever official sponsor. And that sponsor is with us still today, and it's wonderful. And that, of course, is none other than Kansas City, Kansas Dental Associates, man. They help provide some of the equipment that we use now to do the show, just to try to improve our quality. And obviously, we're super grateful to them. So if you get a chance, go ahead and look them up, Kansas City, Kansas Dental Professionals on Facebook, and give them a like. Even if you're in town or not, or if you ever go there or not, give them a like. It matters to them. It helps get the word out. And honestly, if it were not for that first sponsorship, Jonesy, the show may not be where it is today. So thank you to all three of you guys. And hopefully we continue having great relationships with all of our business partners and friends throughout 2019 and beyond, man. So I just figured I would say that before we transition to tonight's edition of the High Spot segment. But Jonesy, I'll tell you what, before we even do that, I got to tell you what, man, I'm super excited today because I found a beer that I've been looking for over 10 years. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, a beer that I've been looking for over 10 years. And I'll tell you exactly what beer that is right after we ask everybody to respectfully remove their caps, place their hands over their hearts as we pay homage to the greatest country on God's green earth. And that's America, dang it.
Oh, say, can you see? And the rock is regular. I'll make up for it now. For the land of the free.
Bring the tear to my eye every single time.
Every single time, ladies and gentlemen. I'll tell you what, Jonesy, Sweetwater out of Atlanta, Georgia, bro. College in Atlanta, just north of Atlanta. And I went down there, and I remember it was the day of the surgery. My dad was going to be in there for quite a few hours. He went in like around 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. And they said, look, you guys can sit here in the lobby. The food's pretty crappy. One of the nurses was like, there's a few places right around here that you guys might want to eat. Make sure you try the local beer. It's like, okay. They didn't want to just sit there in the lobby. You know, we took off in our own directions, and I ended up at this little place. Can't even remember what it's called right now. But I remember getting there and seeing that they were advertising for this stuff called Sweetwater. And no, it's not sweet. It's actually just the name of the beer company. And dude, let me tell you, I walked in to my local drink establishment just a couple hours ago, and there it was, Jonesy. It was sitting there waiting for me, and I knew it was meant for me the moment I saw it because it had a big 420 right on the bottle. And I'm a huge supporter of medical marijuana. Okay, for cancer, for people with cancer, PTSD sufferers, so on and so forth. So what do you think?
That sounds awesome. I would definitely have to try it out. Get out. I am still on the hunt for some Space Cadet IPA. It is the only IPA that I drink. I'd like to thank my co-host for getting me hooked on that stuff, and now I can't find it.
Well, you know what, Jonesy? All you got to do is go to your local adult beverage spot and tell them that you're looking for a very specific cerveza And usually, if you go to a good place, they're going to help you out and they're going to find it. But that said, that concludes the alcoholic segment of tonight's show, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and get in to one of our let's go ahead and get into one of our regularly scheduled segments. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Time to get fired up for tonight's edition of the wait, what? Yeah. Oh, my man, Jay Hollywood said he just tried it. Boom. Time to get you guys fired up for tonight's edition of the High Spot segment. Intern Timmy, hit the music.
Earth rings. We have now taken over your radio.
Hit 'em high, hit 'em high, hit 'em high. You hit 'em low, hit 'em low, hit 'em low.
Talk about tonight on the High Spots, and the one thing that I wanted to actually talk about tonight, Andreas Alves ended up on Monday Night Raw, as well as you know, there was all kind of stuff, but it seemed that wasn't to be, as to SmackDown, they would bring him to Monday Night Raw for the Superstar Shakeup, and then the very next week was send him back to SmackDown. And it seems, now these are just the reports, that it may have to do with the fact of his relationship with Charlotte Flair. Apparently, she may have used a little bit of the pull that she has to get him back on the SmackDown brand, because that's where she's at. And you know, and it kind of makes sense because Aleister Black is on SmackDown, as well as now his wife Selena Vega, and the WWE is known to kind of keep married couples on the same brand, kind of like Jimmy Uso and his wife Naomi. So,
right.
What did you think of that, Renee?
Well, you know what? Reason than one. Starting with the fact that he is my countryman, and not only is he my countryman, he's actually from the same state in the Mexican Union as I am, the great state of Durango. And as a matter of fact, I believe he grew up just a couple of hours from where I was, and then what I do with most other luchadors. Number two, he is way more talented than many of the other luchadors who have come before him. And not to take anything away from Sin Cara or whomever else, but Andrade has something to him. And even though he's not the promo guy, they teamed him up with somebody that's very capable in Selena Vega. And the fact now that he's dating Charlotte Flair and that their intentions are to keep them together, I think is a huge plus. What it shows to me, Jonesy, is that the WWE is starting to care a little bit more about the work-life balance of the superstars that currently work for them, especially since they're asking them to be on the road 200 plus days a year. From home from that long, it never hurts to have somebody there with you that feels like family. And based on all these special going on, so if that is indeed the reason that they sent Andrade back to SmackDown, all I can say is bravo, WWE, for putting someone other than the investors at the very top of your list as far as whom you care about. That is awesome. I think it's a smart thing to do. And if you're going to get the best out of probably your best female wrestler on the roster, then it's very, very smart to keep her happy. And if having Andrade there does that, then hey, by all means, go ahead and do it. It doesn't bother me one bit.
Agree. I would say that Andreas is one of my favorite wrestlers on the SmackDown brand, and to be honest, I get watered down with the likes of Seth Rollins and The Miz, and so I think that SmackDown is the perfect place for him at this time. So absolutely.
Well,
I love it.
Let me tell you something.
What do you got for us, Renee? 'Cause I know that.
I do.
What's that?
I actually don't just have an interesting topic for you, Jonesy. I actually have an interesting guest. And this guest, a gentleman by the name of Tuck, was actually just this past week at the tracked in on the Twitter machine. And I said, hey, anybody who went to this show, if you want to come on and talk about it for a few minutes, just go ahead and dial that number. And Tuck said, hey, you know what? I'm the man for the job. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wrestle Talk podcast for the very first time as a guest, our buddy Tuck.
What's up, gentlemen?
What's up, bro? Thanks for making it.
Hey, appreciate the invite.
I
If you're smart, it's not.
We have a kind of a slogan on the Wrestle.
So the bigger question for me there is what's happened. That's not why you told me to call in, so I can get to what you want to talk about.
Well, listen, we can hit on that here in just a second. But listen, Tuck, man, I had to get a kind of an insider's perspective on this because just yesterday I was talking to a friend who went to his very first SmackDown up in, I believe it's in Nebraska. And so he was very, very happy for the opportunity to see one of these shows live. You and I are maybe a little bit more spoiled. We get quite a bit of that here between Kansas City and St. Louis. But I personally have never been to a pay-per-view, and I've never personally been to a house show like the one that you went to. And from what I hear, there's some pretty dope stuff that happens at these shows that you're not going to see on TV. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience, man, and what you got to see when you were at the live show this past week?
Yeah, I was really shocked, honestly. I haven't been in a house show, a WWE house show since I was a kid. I go to some Dynamo Pro here just recently. Just to give Snitch a real quick plug because he deserves a shot. But I'll get back to that later.
Oh, not another one. Oh, dear goodness. Seriously?
No, I'm the president of the Snitch silent majority.
Wow.
Yes!
Come on, guys. Really? Really?
Yes!
Someday you'll come to your senses, Renee. You'll realize the man is a legend.
Okay. I'll let you carry on.
So there were 8 matches, first of all. That was the first show. So, but the second biggest takeaway from me was something that's been frustrating me from watching WWE on TV.
Okay.
Was the commercial breaks in the middle of matches.
Oh, it's insane.
And it was not there. No, they didn't have that. It was just like watching like I want to watch it. It was steady action, anywhere from 2 to 15-minute matches, no pauses, no just action. And I imagine that was, for somebody that goes to a Raw or SmackDown, there must be these incredible, 3-minute lulls where they're just throwing each other around and not really doing anything decent.
Right.
But those are my 2 biggest takeaways. And then the other thing was there's a lot of people who don't know who Buddy Murphy and Tony Nese are because they get buried on 205 Live, right? Because
correct.
When they came out, good. So yeah, so when they came out, nobody had any clue where they were. A whole section of the crowd was yelling, "Let's go Cena! Cena sucks!" Right? And they missed probably the best match of the entire night because they didn't know who these guys were, and I blame WWE for that.
Well, you know what? It's so funny that you say that because when I go to a Raw and a SmackDown, and Joe, I know you can probably relate, that's part of the frustration for me. I'm like, you can tell they're on a commercial break. It really does take away from the flow of the show. And I know it's a TV production and we need to all just come to the realization, but I've always said to myself, I'm like, what if they could deliver the product on this scale as if it was an indie show where it's like back to back to back. And the closest thing I've seen to it, Tuck, is the NXT shows. It's very close to that because they're not trying to cram in 8,000 plugs, 8,000 promos, matches, and whatnot into a 3-hour show. They have 1 hour and they've got to give you pretty much all meat, very little bread. You know what I mean? So I can understand that, and I'm quite jealous of you because when I went, there was a 205 live match between Buddy Murphy and Hideo Itami before Hideo was let go. Kenta, for those who are more of a Japanese fans, that was the best match of the night. I mean, it was incredible, and I was like, wow. I'm really missing something with the 205 live guys here, and it sounds like you're saying the same thing.
Yeah, it's that, and then there's other little nuances as well, Renee. Right, so there's pieces like the opening show. Elias came out, right? He did his thing where he insulted St. Louis for losing our football team.
Oh
right?
gosh,
Got a heel turn. but then, just like he usually does, right? People start to cheer for him when he asks for it, and he says, "Too late, shut up, sit down." And then Finn Balor comes out and he interrupts him. We're like, "Oh, normal interruption thing." But he says, "No, I want to sing with you." So they get up and they sing the Nelly song "Dilemma" together, right? And that's something they never do on TV.
No.
There's a level of there's a level of intimacy there, right? Where the storytelling is the wrestling. It's just like why we love indie shows, right? Because it's not this bigger production kind of thing. The story was the matches, and the drama in the matches spoke for itself, right? Rather than this cut-in promo, this promo over here, this person that you haven't seen in a while, somebody, it was fantastic. It really was. I mean, and you don't even get frustrated with the shorter matches because you're not, again, interrupted with commercial. It's nonstop action. And then a 3 or 5 minute match doesn't seem frustrating because you didn't just sit through a 3 or 5 minute commercial. Right? So,
well,
we had some, I mean, I don't
awesome.
know if you guys know all the people that were on the call.
Well, Jonesy sure sounds excited about something. We'll ask him about that here in just a second. Go ahead, Tug. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, so just some other folks that were on that. I didn't expect all the 8 players there, but we had a Becky Lynch sighting, right? She fought Alexa Bliss for the title. We had a moment of bliss with Alexa Bliss. We had Ricochet and Aleister Black came out and beat the Singh brothers after the Lucha House Party had just beat the Singh brothers. So I had 3 of my kids out there, right? So I had a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 6-year-old. 2 girls and a boy. 2 girls had the man shirts on. Right? My son's a big Shane McMahon fan, but they were just into this, and they got A stars. I mean, they were the Raw roster, right? And then we had a Lacey Evans sighting, and she did her crazy moonsault. And I don't even know, does that thing have a name? That moonsault she does?
I've not seen it yet. No.
You haven't seen that finisher?
No, not yet.
You need to, as soon as this show's over, you need to just. I'll send it to you on Twitter. Forget about it.
Yeah, send me a link, bro. I got to see that thing.
Blow your mind.
Because I'm a big fan. We actually just real quick, we actually just made a post on our Wrestle Talk fan page about Lacey. It's something I did not know. I knew she was a former Marine, but she was in the service for 5 years, became a sergeant in 5 years, and was voted at the top of her class as a marksman. So that is one lady you definitely do not want to piss off. Huge fan of hers. And it must be pretty incredible to watch her perform live, dude. I'm a little jealous.
Yeah, it was great. She really was amazing. And I'll say that moonsault, and you'd be like, "What?" And it was even more shocking to see it live. Then she was with the Riot Squad, right? And then because of the shakeup, the Riot Squads broke up now.
Right.
And we had a Dana Brooks sighting, which everyone was like, "Who?" And then Bailey was there, Ember Moon, and Nick. It was awesome to see Nikki Cross live. Also, I could feel her energy up from my seats. Right, her level of crazy is ridiculous, and I think it's probably half gimmick, half who she is.
Half real.
Nikki Cross was phenomenal.
That's amazing. Well, Tug, let me jump in here real quick because we do have to respect our next guest time. Let me say this before you go. I know you're a big Dynamo Pro fan. You're kind of spoiled in a lot of ways, living in St. Louis with all the wonderful wrestling that's going on. I'm curious, man, if you could petition fans out there who maybe haven't been to an indie show, because as much as we love WWE, and we could probably do a 2-hour show just talking about WWE stuff, I know you're just like us, and the indies is where it's at, man. So if you could petition fans out there that are on the fence about going out to a local show, man, what can you tell them if maybe they've been to a WWE show but not sure if they want to go to indie show?
If you like the story aspect of wrestling, if you like to suspend disbelief and just get involved, right? Indie shows are where it's at, right? And you're right, we're spoiled in St. Louis because we have every flavor you want of indie shows, right?
True.
And I want someplace to take my kids that we can afford to go out and still eat dinner if we wanted to afterwards. And indie shows are fantastic. It was the Dynamo Pro in particular, family friendly, but still all the violence I need, right, to satisfy me. Real characters, people that are doing it because they love it, right? And it's high quality. It really is just a lot of fun. And if you have any interest in wrestling whatsoever, and you haven't checked out an indie show, I encourage you to do so, because the biggest, coolest thing for me now, no, shut up. I'm sorry, I've taken up a little bit too much time today. But the biggest thing for me about the indie shows was, as soon as we hit that first intermission and those guys were walking around and they were taking pictures with my kids, and they weren't like, get away from me, I'm too good for you. They were like, hey, and I was able to talk to them about moves and spots they did and what were they thinking here. And they're talking to us about what was going on. And that just, you don't get anywhere else. So, yes, check out indie shows.
Absolutely love it. Well, bro, do me one last favor before you go, man. Go ahead and drop the Twitter handle so people know how to keep up with you on social media, and we'll talk to you down the road, bro.
All right, I'm Prez Tuck, so at PREZ_Tuck, TUCK.
Prez_Tuck. All right, Tuck, you take it easy, bro. We'll catch you down the road, and maybe we'll have a beer together next time I'm in St. Louis, man. You take it easy. Hopefully you enjoy the rest of the show, and do not forget to watch us on YouTube, because we have turned our back on Facebook, Jonesy. We're done with it. Every time we do these broadcasts, we got tons of people watching, and then it always huts out. And no, I know what you're always going to say. You're always making fun of me, talking about, why don't you upgrade from dial-up, Renee? This isn't 1994. Why don't you upgrade to high-speed internet? Go, guess what? I did upgrade, and Facebook still be pissing me off. No, stop it. Stop accusing me.
No.
All right. Enough of that. I'll tell you what, Jonesy, we are just seconds away from bringing on our first featured guest of the evening. Shout out to Tuck, man. Thank you again for coming on, bro. Hopefully you'll be a regular, and hopefully you check us out on YouTube and share the broadcast. But anywho, Jonesy, before we move on to the Rev, a man that I'm excited to talk about, because, you know, we share a faith base. We're both Christians. We both are believers in Christ. Okay. And I'm very happy to see somebody succeeding in the pro wrestling business that isn't dropping F-bombs and S-bombs and P-bombs and C-bomb. And if you don't know what any of those mean, just message me and I can interpret for you. But still has the intensity, still brings the pain and punishment. It's very, very refreshing, dude. So here in just a few seconds, we're going to go ahead and bring him on. But before we do, man, I wanted to remind everybody, Jonesy, that we recently started selling these Wrestle Talk podcast mugs, which you can use for root beer floats, ice cream sundaes, or maybe just a cold adult beverage, man. They are currently on sale for $15. And if you want it custom engraved with your name on it, it's only $5 more. Dude, we broke our heads, right? We were kind of clashing a little bit, trying to figure out what we wanted to do for merch, Jonesy. And I know we talk t-shirts, we talk wristbands, we talk hats, we talk hoodies. And really, we didn't want to take anything away from the workers in the ring, because a lot of times that's what wrestlers sell. The most sense for us was these custom beer mugs done by Wrath Bun Engraving. Our buddy Scott over there has done a tremendous job. And every dollar of the beer mug goes back into the Wrestle Talk podcast, keeping the show alive and funded so that we can continue to entertain, bring you the very best guests in wrestling, and do our wrestling watch parties that we do 4 times a year, like we did at Universe Mania 5 over at Esports. And then, of course, I wanted to remind everybody that if you hate the New England Patriots, much like myself and my homeboy Jonesy, and you're tired of putting money in Tom Brady's pocket, you're sick of Robert Kraft using your ones and taking them down to massage parlors in South Florida, then get away from Gillette. All you got to do is go to the same place where you can find those beer mugs, and that's the merch booth at the WrestleTalkPodcast.com. Again, that's WrestleTalkPodcast.com/merch booth, and test out one of these brand new Darko razors. They've got them in 4 blades, 5 blades, and 7 blades. I like the 7 because I got sensitive skin. The pack even comes with a little bit of shaving cream and 5 refill cartridges. That's right. So for $24, I got the razor, 2 extras, plus the extra cartridge of 5 and the cream, dude. You cannot buy a 5-pack of razors from just absolutely free, and there are no contracts required. So you order as you go. I mean, it's really, really fantastic. We want you guys after the show to take a minute and make your way over to WrestleTalkPodcast.com/merch booth. That said, guys, it is time to get into our first featured guest of the evening. Since Jonesy, you were nice enough to set this interview up, why don't you do us the honor of introducing the Rev?
Absolutely. This gentleman has been wrestling for 8 years. He was trained by the Rock Samoan Otta. He has worked everywhere around the area, from the Ring of Honor to the NWA East to Revolution Renegade Wrestling Alliance to Keystone State Wrestling. He's had multiple titles. He shared the ring with multiple people. He is a man of God. He is an incredible competitor, and I was lucky enough to be in the ring with him and be one of his referees. Ladies and gentlemen, the Rev, Ron Hunt.
Hey!
Yeah! And I cannot thank you enough.
Woo! Yo, let that play in the background real low, man. I like that.
I don't know. I might have to raise an offering plate for that type of introduction right there.
Good intro, Jonesy.
What is going on, sir?
Nothing much. How you guys doing tonight?
We are doing wonderful, wonderful, and we definitely appreciate you coming on to the show tonight with us. Oh my goodness, it is just, I got to meet you like at a Phoenix Pro show, which unfortunately there is no more Phoenix Pro, but you got to wrestle a guy by the name of John Roden, and you have said that was one of your favorite matches. Can you tell us about wrestling John Roden?
Oh, absolutely. I think there are definitely a lot of people, not within the area, but within the state that are living legends. And it was one of those things that, fortunately, I have to give it up to the fan of Phoenix Pro when we did our fan appreciation night. And as you said, Jones, you were actually our rep for that. We actually had a rep prior, but due to situations, we kind of had to switch things at the last second. But the thing with John is, not a stranger of John's. That was the first time that Roden and I actually stepped in a ring together. But we're pretty much around each other every single month. In particular, with one of the companies, Renegade Wrestling Alliance, RWA in West Newton, Pennsylvania. And just naturally, I think everyone that follows John Roden on social media, they know of his caliber. They know the type of energy the guy brings. They know that. I mean, I think John Roden is one of the very few that truly treats this wrestling business as a legit business. And that's how you can tell, you could tell apart those that, are just going through the motion and those that are going to be future superstars. And I definitely saw that potential in John Roden. And I said, man, oh man, if there's one person that I can have a match with, I said, with them going into this being my 8th year and going into 9, I said 2019, I wanted to wrestle the best of the best. So I would say, starting off, a couple months in 2019 with a competitor like John Roden, I think I'm definitely on the right track, man. He pushed me to the limit. He was able to get a win, but I tell you, that is one of the main guys that has definitely pushed me to my limit. And I think we both bettered each other out of that match.
Awesome.
Absolutely. I would definitely agree. It was a amazing match. Now, I do kind of want to get away from professional wrestling because, sir, when you are not being a professional wrestler, you are a news broadcaster. Can you tell us how you got into broadcasting?
Yeah. So I actually I started in radio. I want to say probably about 2008, 2009, and I was in radio for about a good 4 or 5 years or so, and then decided to swing over into TV. So it was one of those things to where I kind of knew that I had a gift to gab, which I definitely think also, I can contribute to wrestling and vice versa. News has helped me within wrestling. I knew that some way I can have a sense of power and a sense of telling a story, with the camera in front of my face and a microphone. And that also, transfers over into pro wrestling. But it was one of those things to where I said, hey, this is pretty cool. I'm gonna give it a shot. I love doing interviews, and I think one thing that's cool about being being in the broadcast field is, you're always learning something new the next day. And you can't beat that. You go different places, you learn different things, and it's a new variety of life each and every day that you begin to learn something new, and you get to tell the story that not many people around the world get to hear. So, I've definitely been loving it. Outside of wrestling, I mean, that's what I do full time right now. And then when I'm not doing that, I'm back on the road. So I mean, I'm on between working news and media as a whole as an interviewer, and then also working wrestling. I am on the road legit every single day. Every single day I'm on the road somewhere.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's part of the business. And last thing I wanted to ask before I kick it over to my co-host is you are good friends with Ring of Honor star Caprice Coleman. I believe that you both share a interest with God, and that's what makes the Rev Ron Hunt so awesome, is because not only are you a professional wrestler, but you're able to bring in your faith into your character as well. Can you tell us about your friendship with Caprice Coleman?
Yeah. Honestly, man, Caprice is a good friend of mine, and actually, we're so close to friends that I consider him a big brother of mine. And it's one of those things where he's been a very good mentor of me. Just with meeting him, I want to say probably about probably pushing about 6 years or so now. And it was one of those things to where, just always watching him and knowing that we had the same concept. And one of our loops when Ring of Honor was in Pittsburgh, and I was helping out, trying to do some things behind the scenes with them. We always stayed connected. We actually formed a team. I want to say we've been working as a team for probably about 3 years now. And now he's a little bit more exclusive because he's fully on the broadcast side of things with Ring of Honor. But whenever we can, we definitely try to team up as the Saints of Valor. And I think it's one of those things that's important. I think, a lot of us know that this wrestling business can be lonely. There are times where, you do have a lot of people that mean, good. So when you can find a good friend and a good mentor like Caprice, that is not just there to, get over, but is there for the, because he loves talking with people, he loves inspiring people, and, he loves motivating people. You definitely want to hold those friends. You want to cherish those friends forever. So Caprice and I are very, very close. We're just like brothers. And, it's been one of those things where I definitely think our faith has been one of the things that has brought us closer together. And, it's one of those things to where, we all have another side of us. But, my whole thing with the Rev, a lot of us say, to be successful, whatever you do in wrestling, allow it to be an extension of yourself, and just turned up a notch. And that's what people get when they do see the Rev Ron Hunt. That's all of my faith, everything that I believe in, tied into one, and it's kind of what motivates me to continue to keep fighting no matter what adversity.
Absolutely. All right, I know that my co-host is chomping at the bit. He's been messing with me. Come on, Jonesy, you're taking too much time.
Nah.
Hey, why don't you come on in and ask whatever questions that you have, sir.
No doubt about it. And I just want to take a second to thank everybody who's tuning in live right now through Blog Talk, through WrestleTalk.com, a lot to us. So Rev, let me kind of piggyback a little bit off of what my partner Jonesy was asking and talking about. I'm curious, in your 8 years in the business, and I know, there's no secret, we're talking to Kenny Bolin, the StarMaker, a little bit later. There is no shortage of politics and drama in pro wrestling, and it's always for a different reason, but it ultimately all ends up being the same thing. And in my opinion, it's all about everybody trying to climb the ladder, earn respect, and get their place in the pro wrestling business, no matter what level they're on. And with your perspective and the way that maybe you grew up, obviously faith is something that's super important, and it's not something that you set to the side when you come in and you work in the professional wrestling business. So I'm curious, at any point in your 8 years, no need to name any names, but at any point in your 8 years, have you perceived or maybe just flat out seen that your beliefs and the way that you operate and what you believe outside the pro wrestling business has affected your ability to be successful in a wrestling promotion, or maybe has it caused you issues backstage with bookers or other talent in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, you know, with touching with what you were saying there, I think that's definitely something that I feel has happened on numerous occasions, you know, in regards of whether it's individually, personally, in the locker room, you know, or, you know, with the company as a whole. I say, you know, more likely it happens more with the company as a whole, because I think a lot of people don't, they either don't want to press the limit to see what it fully is, and then they just hear the name the Rev, and then they don't want to deal with it, or, you know, they know what you're capable of doing, and just because of that, you know, they want to kind of hold you back. And I don't think that has been anything that, you know, it's kind of straight. I mean, I think we all go through different walks in life where, you know, it may seem like you really want something, and it seems like, you know, someone might get it and you might not feel that they're deserving, or they're just getting it because there is a politics side of it. But I think that's the whole thing with, you know, what causes you to work harder. You know, it kind of gives you that hunger. It kind of gives you that knowledge to know, you know, the true purpose of what you're doing. And, you know, at the end of the day, I always look at, there's one particular scripture that says, you know, all things work together for the good of them that love God and are called according to his purpose. So with that, I think that's one thing that I've definitely taken to heart. And pretty much that, you know, how I look at that is, no matter what the adversity is, you know, no matter how, you know, how much people try to, you know, tear you down, or the politics feels like it weighs you down on sport of professional wrestling, you know, look at it as a way of really having you grow. I think, you know, no matter what the adversity is of politics, it's actually allowed me to reach down to a deeper side of me, you know, Ron Hunt, the Rev, and realize I did not know I was capable of going this far. I did not know I was capable of, you know, allowing myself to get better by this much. And I think when it's all said and done, we will all get to a point where, you know, some people, you know, they can't deny your, you know, your talent, your gifts. And a lot of times, you know, it gets annoying, but, you know, I definitely say that it always works out when it's all said and done.
Well, you know what? I'm happy to hear you say that, man, because I figured, you know, that the path is narrow, as the scriptures say. And of course, things are going to be a little bit more difficult for you than what they would be for somebody else because of your beliefs. And I find it very, and I don't want to, you know, focus on this too much. I'm sure we could do a second interview, because there's so much I would like to ask you. But man, listen, nowadays, for somebody like you, and you basically have just told us that you have run those things throughout your time in pro wrestling. What I find to be the strangest thing is that they may be apprehensive to someone such as yourself, Rev, but at the same time, you've got Seth Rollins, you know, with the Star and the GOAT, you know, coming out as part of his merch. And then you've got Aleister Black basically running a Satan worshiping gimmick. And people embrace that. But with something like what you're doing, it's almost taboo. Do you know why? I mean, I think you and I both know why, but for the listener's sake, why do you think that is?
You know, I think we're definitely in a time where, you know, I think what people feel like with a lot of freedom and openness with how they think, you know, right now when people hear the Rev Ron Hunt, they naturally think of religion, and you know, people that truly know me do know that full faith side of me is, you know, completely authentic and genuine. And a lot of people know I'm one of the last people that kind of judge you and, you know, try to throw some holy water at you, right? You know, and you know, my whole thing is when God, I've been very fortunate to, you know, to talk with guys that, you know, have went through some things, have struggled with some things. When I came back to the Pittsburgh area after I was done training and after I was done with college, one of the first people that I held a tag team title with was an atheist. And you know, I didn't know it until after we won it. And, you know, a couple shows went by and he said, "Hey, you know, I just want to be upfront with you. Do you care that I'm an atheist?" I said, you know, that
still love you, bro. That's kind of what we do. We still love you, bro. That's awesome.
Exactly. That's thing. I'm like, I don't hate you. I'm not going to run to the promoter and say, what are you doing? You know, what are you doing? I told him, I said, listen, I'm not one to force it down your throat. Just if you ever want to talk about faith, feel free to let me know in your timing. I said, other than that, you can hit me up no matter when you want to hit me up. You can talk, and I'm not going to think any different. But I think, you know, when you look at the overall aspect of it, and you know, I do have some people that are, you know, that are in connection with it. But when you look at things like I'll say this for example, I know you mentioned some of the symbolism with, you know, within Seth Rollins and Aleister Black, but I think even right now, even one of the most prominent ones that I could think of right now that's kind of been getting, you know, a name on the independent circuit is Blackcraft Wrestling, and you know.
Okay, they're out of Pittsburgh.
And like I said,
wait a minute, time out. They're out of Pittsburgh. They're out of Pittsburgh, and one of their owners, Matt Light, the comedian, was actually just on the show 3 weeks ago, and I asked him about that, and he was like, "Yo, it's just a gimmick. It's just a gimmick." And I'm like, "All right." You feel what it was? I was like, "All right," you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, that's you. But go. I want to hear you talk about that, Joe, because I know you remember I was asking Matt about that.
Oh yeah, but you know what? Check this out. Believe it or not, you know, Matt Light now, you know, we aren't close to each other. We do have people within the same circle, and you know, we have conversed on numerous occasions. A couple of people that work on the artistic side of things as well. And you know, not to get any heat on them, you know, if that is the thing, you know, I think, you know, a lot of people can play devil's advocate and say, well, you know, you have people that, you know, that are reverends and you know, in wrestling. Well, why can't we have a company that is kind of like the you know, kind of do whatever you want, you know, live on life's edge type of edginess? And you know, right now it's working for them. But I think, just like you said, you know, you always have to look at a spectrum of, okay, you know, you have the rev, and some companies look at that and touch it, you know, sometimes for their own personal beliefs, and they just don't want to deal with it. But then you do have a company like, you know, Blackcraft that has items that says, you know, wrestling is real, God is fake. You know, so you know, my whole concept of it is, and you know, as we, you know, we're speaking on for, you know, with me being ordained and everything, you know, my whole thing is, you know, not everyone is going to church. That's okay. And me being the rev is not me, you know, trying to save everybody. But, you know, just to plant the seed, you know, some people come to me after the show and say, hey, are you a real rev? And I say, yeah, absolutely, you know. And it's funny because I had a couple fans that wanted me to marry them. I have a good friend of mine. What? Married him and his fiance at the end of this year as well. So my thing is, you know, I've always had the perception of, you know, if the world can do certain things, then me with my faith, I can be just as proud of doing what I can do. And I don't want people to think that their faith can hinder them from doing anything. You can do what you want, and you can take your faith with you and allow people to see how you live and how you walk your life. Not to say that you're better, but just say, no, I can do the same thing you do. I don't have to be, sitting in the corner and don't believe in electricity. I can do exactly what you do, except show you now how I'm using my faith, just as you're using your faith in whatever you believe in. So I think that's always been my message, just within these few years or so.
Yeah, you know what? And I'll leave it at this. And I learned this over my time as being an imperfect human being. It takes a lot more faith to be faithless than it takes to be faithful. I'll just leave it at that. Let me switch gears. Let me switch gears for you with you a little bit here, Rev. And, you know, what you've accomplished in the ring in your 8 years is something that a lot of people dream of doing. And when I say that, it's because you've had the opportunity to work with some of the who's who of pro wrestling. I'm just going to rattle off a couple of names because I know you're modest and you're not going to. You've worked with Kevin Sullivan. You've worked with X-Pac, Teddy Long, the Brooklyn Brawler, Shane Douglas, Cheeseburger, and you were part of the WWE Tough Enough process. And you were one of the finalists there a couple of years ago as well. Talk to us about some of the experiences and some of the opportunities that you've had because of pro wrestling that I'm guessing if you're a lifelong fan like we are, probably all of those were a dream come true.
You know what? Pro wrestling is one of those things to where it's legit one of those businesses where you can go from, from what we declare as nothing, no one knowing you, and all it takes is the right moment, the right timing, and the right effort being put in, and you can achieve it. And I've been very fortunate to, be blessed and to be put in situations to where, some of these people that you look up to that have motivated you are the ones that now you can call a colleague. That some of them, I have their numbers, and you could have never told me that as a young boy. Even back in I believe it was 1998, I was watching Bash at the Beach, WCW Bash at the Beach, Eddie Guerrero versus Chavo Guerrero, and you could have never told me at that year, yeah, even if I did follow this dream a little bit, that I'll be able to, work with people like that. And so just to be able to do that, I think it's a peaceful reassurance that I don't know how long I'll be in this business. I just know that right now, a lot of times, when I feel myself wondering, what am I doing? Is this getting me anywhere? And, I feel like God just gives me that peaceful reminder. You're on the right track. It might take a little bit longer than what you want, but trust and believe you're on the right track, or you wouldn't have these experiences. And, I would say, even when it came to that, I was fortunate, even when I had to do some extra work over the last few years, and, just being and I surrounded myself with other locals of the Pittsburgh area that we have shared those memories of working with people like Triple H and
whoa. Well, I'm not, Rev, I'm not gonna let you just scan over that. Okay, what are you talking about? You working with Triple H? The Wrestle Talk podcast family has to hear about this, because not everybody has that in their resume, sir. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
You know what? Like I said, I consider it all a blessing, and it's always the right place at the right time. But I believe it was about 3 years ago, whatever. I want to say about 3 years ago, 3 to 4, when Triple H and I think Roman had a program going, and they were building up to WrestleMania, I believe. And this was actually for one of their Monday Night Raws. And myself, as well as a bunch of others, this is when Triple H and Stephanie and them were running the Authority. And so we had to do some things with the Authority. One of my guys got thrown to a table, and a few other things, which is hilarious. I believe if you probably go on YouTube and type in, I think Triple H and Roman Reigns brawl or something, you'll probably find it. You'll see me tiptoeing, because there was a bunch of craziness that day. But even to the point to where just even looking at things that I was fortunate to do a segment of being the Elite with the Young Bucks and Cody Rhodes when they were still with Ring of Honor, and even just sharing a locker room with Cody Rhodes when it was my very first debut. I had the fortunate pleasure to work with Cheeseburger and a good friend of mine, Derek Neal, from the Kentucky area, for Ring of Honor during their Global Wars tour. But just sharing a locker room with a guy like Cody Rhodes, going to lunch with a guy like Will Ospreay, and you're wondering, like, this ain't for me, man. They must have got the wrong person. You always thinking that, you try to psych yourself out of it. But just like I said, I always feel like it's that peaceful reminder that God gives us that no, it might not come when you want it, but trust the process. And that's what I try to tell a lot of people. Trust the process. You don't know when it's coming, but still smile and trust the process. Continue to keep going, because you never know when that break will happen.
Wow, trust the process. Now it sounds like a true 76er fan over here. I like that. I had to tease you a little bit. Quick note, Derek Neal is a friend of the show. Met him. I got to ring announce. I did a terrible job that night. I apologize, Jesse Matthews. So shout out to Derek Neal. We got to see him out at a Proving Ground Pro show last year in the middle of a small town in Illinois. It was about 113 degrees before the sun came out. We were in the middle of the town square, and there were about 500 people losing their minds. And the main event was Dirty J Durden, whose T-shirt is hanging on the wall behind me, versus KLD that night. So Jim Roberts, Jesse Matthews, you guys are the shiznit. I love you guys so much. Good guys. The other thing.
Dirk Neal is a good friend of mine. We always stay connected. So, shout out to my man Dirk Neal, and I think that's a one. There are many secret threats and undercover jewels within pro wrestling, and Dirk Neal is definitely one of those. And impressed a lot of us. We had a blast, and definitely looking forward to somewhere down the road working with Dirk again.
Dude, no doubt about it. Well, listen, before we move on to the final phase of this interview, which is tonight's edition of the Shoot and Shout segment, we hope you'll join us. Jonesy will do a great job of explaining it. I did want to ask you one last question. So, of all the run-ins and experiences that you've had in the world of pro wrestling, mainly concerning some of the names that you've worked with, because I know that's what the fans like to hear about the most, can you tell us maybe just one more story about getting a chance to work with somebody that you maybe looked up to when you were growing up? Because when I go through this list, Triple H isn't even somebody I mentioned, and you kind of pull that rabbit out of your hat. Mm-hmm. Is there maybe just one? I mean, and I skipped over the Brooklyn Brawler of all people, but dude, cool stuff. I know you still got a long way to go in your career, but up to this point, it's been pretty amazing. Is there maybe just one more you could share with us before we try to close out this interview?
You know what? I would definitely say one of the most biggest was definitely X-Pac, and I'll cut to the quick and then I'll tell the X-Pac story. The week that I worked with X-Pac was kind of crazy because Pittsburgh had Monday Night Raw on Monday, and then we had a loop. I believe we were in Hershey, Pennsylvania Tuesday for SmackDown, and then I had 2 days off. And I was running a benefit show at my alumni college on Friday. So you got to think, I'm working with Triple H and Stephanie McMahon and Roman Reigns on Monday, in Hershey on Tuesday, and then Friday I'm in a tag team main event with X-Pac, which is all in a 5 day period. But one of the biggest things I would definitely say is X-Pac, and it wasn't so much about what happened in the ring. I want first of all, I just want to give a shout out to the team of Team Blackout, Robbie Illuminati. We had Black G's there that was replacing one of his gentlemen that's also in his group. Robbie Illuminati and I came together with the idea to run a benefit show. There was a wrestling show that ran a couple years prior at my alum. Kind of did a bad job with promoting. They didn't get the full experience. And as you know, like I know, it doesn't matter what the company is. If a company burns the area, people that don't watch pro wrestling that much, they just say pro wrestling in general is terrible, and it puts a bad rep. So what Rob Zaccardi, Rob Illuminati, and I wanted to do was run a benefit show and just give that full experience back to the community that we felt like they were robbed from. So we did that. Our initial date we had to reschedule. At that point, X-Pac actually tore his bicep at a previous show about a few weeks out, so we had to cancel it. Yeah, I know, right?
That's rough.
We thought the turnbuckle spot was bad, and I think we've all heard that the turnbuckle spot that was very unfortunate with Pac.
Yeah. But
we had to cancel that show because X-Pac was our main draw. He was our main event. I was supposed to tag with him. I was a hometown boy, the college alum from there, and so once we finally rescheduled, X-Pac came right in. We fully did everything. He talked to the whole locker room. When I say this, we started the show about 15, 20 minutes late because he was just freewheeling, talking fully to everyone. Wanted to share, information, wisdom, and trust me, we all absorbed it. We had the full show. A couple things went haywire. My guy actually broke his ankle in the middle of the match.
Dang.
One of the guys we were facing about two minutes into the main event. He broke his ankle. So X-Pac, once again, our ring general, took full control of it. We got through everything smooth, was able to get a victory. But one thing I wanted to point out about X-Pac was we were raising money for one of the fraternities of the school. They were doing a fundraiser that was going to wounded military heroes. X-Pac gave every single dollar of his merchandise money. Every single autograph dollar, every single T-shirt, every single picture dollar, every single dollar that he made at his merch, he gave 100% of it to the fundraising for the military heroes. At the same time, apologized that he could not hold his obligation to the prior date because of his injury. And then we had an after party for all fans to be with the wrestlers after, all of the military heroes. And, you know, and X-Pac had a show the very next day, about 5-6 hours away. X-Pac still took enough time to not only stay until the end of the show, give all of his money, but he stayed for a decent amount of the after party that was in a whole separate location just to give that experience back to the fans, and did not ask for anything out of return on top of helping us out because we were tight on our budget. So that was one of the things that really humbled me and you know, allowed me to know no matter what you do, you know, as long as you keep the spirit of giving back, and that spoke volumes to me.
Wow. You know what, Joe, I know that you're sitting there and you're just as excited as I am. You know, Ron, it's just incredible. You know, I'm seeing people here on our feed just providing feedback. The Rev is a legend. Amen. Don't stop. And that's an A+ dude, indie spirit. Like, clearly your message is resonating with the fans, not just of our show, but with your fans. And I think it's pretty incredible. And you know what? As I sit here and I think about your story, there's only one thing I can surmise. You did Monday and Tuesday with Triple H, and then on Friday you were doing business with X-Pac. So, Jonesy, is it fair to say that the Rev is an unofficial member of DX now? Do you think that's fair?
I would say so.
Okay, well, I think that deserves a little bit of something special. Shout out to my Mexicans out there. That's the famous Mexican yell, y'all. Well, Rev, listen, man, we want to go ahead and continue this conversation in the future with you, man. So we're going to ask you for two things right after we get into tonight's edition of the Shoot and Shout segment, man. It's 30 to 45 seconds. It's all in fun, and it gives you an opportunity to have a little bit of a therapeutic session. And anything out there in the world that's just frustrating you a little bit, all you got to do is say the word and let the people know what that is. Like I said, it has to be passionate. Doesn't even have to be wrestling related. All we want you to do is bring the heat. Will you please join us during tonight's edition of the Shoot and Shout segment?
Absolutely, man. You already know you got it, brother.
Let's go. All right, Jonesy, hit the music. Have intern hit the music. You'll go first. I'll go number 2, and we'll let the Rev close it out on tonight's edition of the Shoot and Shout segment.
It's just one of those days where you don't want to wake up. Everybody's stuck. You don't really know why, but you want to jump.
All right, I would definitely start this thing out. What pisses me off today is the fact that Snitch and Dynamo Pro still has not days. Adrian Sergi may have won that Dynamo Pro championship match, and he may be the Dynamo Pro champion, but just remember, the Snitch is still owed a title shot, and he's coming to take his title. There you go.
Okay, well, Jonesy, I don't know if I agree with you, but let me tell you something, man. I'm just as passionate about my Shoot and Shout tonight, and that is this. Ladies and gentlemen, do us all a favor and keep the negativity to yourself. Listen, I manage my social on Instagram, Snapchat platforms, and guess what? No matter where I go, somebody's always complaining about something. And you know what? If you want to complain, this is the place to do it. Not social media every day about how somebody cut you off in traffic, how the potato chip bag's only halfway full, how your back hurts, how your car doesn't get enough gas mileage. Let me hear you say something positive. You got the internet. You got a car. You got somewhere to live. You got money for them expensive potato chips. Why never hear you say how thankful you are for some of that stuff? I swear, people think social media is a complaint box. It's not. We want to hear about your life. We want to hear how things are going, what you're achieving, what you're attempting to achieve, what your goals and aspirations are. We don't want to hear about how much your life sucks. You know why? Because when we go to social media, it's because our life sucks too. And it's hard out here, man. So stop your crying, quit your complaining, because there's always, and I mean always, something to be grateful for. Like my wife, she just got her citizenship. She just went and took the test. It took us 15 years to save up the money. But guess what? She did it. No complaints, no excuses. Take notes, ladies and gentlemen. That's my shooting shot. Rev, you better bring the heat.
Oh, man, I don't know if I can back that up. I think one of my things is try to break this down. My heat, the thing that kind of ticks me off is we have so many people say that they want it, but yet when it comes down to it, their actions don't back up their words. You either have to be angry because you're trying everything and you feel like you're just not there, or don't be angry at all. This goes not only within wrestling, but the real world. If you want it, you got to sacrifice some stuff. One of the biggest people one of the greatest life coaches I've heard say, the same time that Jay-Z and Beyonce works with is the same 24 hours that you have in your life. They don't have any extra hours. So choose your time wisely. If you got to sacrifice some sleep, sacrifice some sleep. If you got to sacrifice some meals, sacrifice some meals. But whatever you do, don't complain unless you're giving your all. Now, if you complain and you're not giving your all, I'm going to have to call up your boss, your promoter, and put you in the ring with the Rev Ron Hunt.
Woo! Look at that, baby. Yeah, Rev. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Well, you know what? Jonesy, I'm going to give you an opportunity to do your thing first, man. Go ahead and your final words to the Rev, man, before we close out tonight's first featured interview right here on the Wrestle Talk podcast with Joe and Renee.
Absolutely. So it has been an honor and a privilege, and I sincerely hope that I get to referee another one of your matches. Hopefully next time we won't have the incident of somebody getting injured, because that was a unfortunate thing. Luckily the guy is okay and he was perfectly fine. So hopefully I get to referee another one of your matches and just keep doing what you've been doing, man.
I appreciate that, man. And once again, man, thank you for coming in the clutch and you keeping everything everything centered for us, man. And the guarantee it definitely won't be the last, brother.
Absolutely.
Jonesy, you are always Johnny on the spot, man. You're always saving my 24 hours a day, bro, 7 days a week. Well, Rev, man, I was really excited to hear you come on just because I've seen some of your stuff on YouTube. Joe was just super excited when he told me about the possibility of you being able to come on. I know you're really busy during the week as well. And now that we've talked to you, man, I can only say this, man. We want to welcome you officially as the newest member of the Wrestle Talk family. You got to promise us to come back before the end of the year. And lastly, man, please drop the social media so people can keep up with the Rev.
Most definitely, man. Thank you guys once again, man. Consider it a true honor, man. Definitely a class show here. You guys have one like no other. So whenever you need the Rev on, feel free to let me know. But for all of you following on social media, I made it very easy. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just type in the Rev, R-E-V, Ron Hunt. You'll be able to find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You'll follow me, put some match links in there, some promos. If you guys look through, man, I cut promos for days and even on YouTube as well, man. So I truly appreciate you guys having me on.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Well, Rev, don't leave us just yet. We're gonna put you on hold, okay? We're gonna go to break. We're gonna play your theme. But before we do, Jonesy, can we hit the freestyle? Because I want to make sure the Rev gets a chance to hear the Wrestle Talk podcast freestyle, because I have it on pretty good authority that he's a huge hip hop fan, just like me.
Yo, what up? Night Owl. Nightmare Jones. What up, Wrestle Talk fam? Do it for y'all. Check me out. Kicking the door, waving the 4-4. Even them haters can't hate us no more. So unlock your door, cause we got some more. Every Wednesday we here, keeping it raw. Night Owl, Nightmare Jones, and all the best guests. Like a double barrel pointed right at your chest. Wrestle Talks Podcast.com. Smashing and killing it like the night of the prom. Yeah! Book of Revelation. Book of Revelation. Book of Revelation. Yeah. Book of Revelation, disciple of Christ, it's what you make it. I'm better than anyone you were naming. Watch me do it. The greatest is here and I'll prove it. Believe in anything that is conclusive. You can preach that. Yeah, to all my believers, God is my quarterback, catch a blessed wide receiver. You can catch the cross flash or the DDT. Must succeed. In action, it is something to see. How does it feel to be the presence of a state? Wrestle inside my ring is a feeling you can't replace. Always here to prove I am flawless, never mistake. God is watching my back as a matter of fact. The proof is in the word that everyone can be saved. The reverend in the ring of the talent can be thy name. I am just a student of everything that is right. My belief is in it all. My talent given by Christ. The reverend spoken. All of you listen. I am known now as a legend. What has been missing? Destined for greatness. My path can be related. Wrestle with my faith. Call it the book of Revelation. The reverend spoken. All of you listen. I am known as a legend. Quoting what has been missing. Destined for greatness. My path can be related. Wrestle with
What up, YouTube? Thank y'all for the love, baby. My nose started bleeding. Can y'all see that? It's bleeding.
Hey, wrestling fans, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat talking at you, and you're listening to the Wrestle Talk.
Such a great freaking first hour. The web was freaking awesome, and I do have a little surprise for you that I'm going to show you. I'm going to let you listen to what I'm going to be playing at the end of the show, and I know it's something that Renee would not know anything about. The Night Owl doesn't know anything about this artist whatsoever. So let's just play just a couple seconds of it, and we'll see if Renee knows who this person is.
Oh, fuck you can't even sing.
Here's the thing.
Hey, baby, I like it raw. Yeah, baby, I like it raw. Hey, baby.
He never know who that is. Never.
No, never heard of her.
Not at all.
Yo, welcome back for hour 2 Wrestle Talk Familia. Thank you so much to Ronell, aka the Rev Ron Hunt, for coming on the show, man. Truly just a treat to talk to somebody that has a real appreciation for the world of pro wrestling the way that we do, Jonesy. And it really comes across when you hear the guy talk, not only about the successes that he's had in the ring, but some of the other stuff. I mean, that story about X-Pac, it really hit home with me, man, because when you think of X-Pac, when you think of guys on that level, immediately a certain level of arrogance and entitlement comes to your mind. But for the fact that X-Pac not only gave up his whole check, his whole merch check, and stayed there knowing he had another show 5 or 6 hours away the following day, that just speaks volumes. And I think it's important to look at, because bookers, and we forget they're human beings. They're people just like you and me. And I guess it's taboo. I mean, I guess it's like a fad right now to just go on Twitter and call everyone an idiot these days. And I guess there may be some truth to that. People do make a lot of boneheaded, idiotic decisions. But for the most part, I think everybody's out here trying to do a good job. Well, at least that's what I would like to believe. So let's have a little bit of compassion for each other, ladies and gentlemen, because you know what? If we hadn't had that from you guys, the members of the Wrestle Talk family, there's no way we would be on episode 243. I'm sure you can agree with that, Jonesy.
Absolutely. I definitely can agree with that 100%. But now it's time for the fantasy wrestling segment of the Wrestle Talk podcast. And for those of you who don't know what fantasy wrestling is you got fantasy baseball, football, basketball, everything else. So why not fantasy wrestling? We do picks for matches on Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, WWE pay-per-views. You get to cut promos. If you win a match, you may end up getting a championship title sent to you. All you got to do is send it back to the person that beats you. It's really, really, really simple. It's a lot of fun. If you're interested in it, go to the WrestleTalkPodcast.com, click on the FWWC tab, and it'll get you started with everything that you need to get started in the FWWC. We have all kinds of people. We got a guy by the name of Tank Westbrook that thinks that he's the king of the blue brand and is making people bow down to him. And it's just, I think that he has lost his ever-loving mind, and the title has definitely gone to his head. I don't know what you think about that, but that's just my opinion.
Well, listen, Jonesy, and I know the phone lines are starting to fill up here. We even have a few callers that are unidentified at this one. Let's see if we can have Timmy check on that. Listen, man, I've got my thoughts about this situation concerning Tank Westbrook. And, I was sitting back watching, Raw and SmackDown and the live challenges. And quite frankly, I was very, very surprised to how things shook out. It's not a secret that I am not a fan of the way that Tank is carrying himself right now. He had this full support of the FWWC universe and the BOD as he was pursuing that championship. But the moment he got his hands on it, it's almost like he felt like he was knighted. There was a crown that belonged on his head, and now he's walking around calling everybody peasants. Now, for those actions, we all saw what happened. He wanted to make Corbin Slater bow down, and he accomplished that, but it cost him dearly when Robert came out and nailed him with the chair. And then, of course, you had the low blow by Slater. And quite frankly, man, I'm not sure how this is all going to play out moving forward. But what I can tell you is this: Tank, as the top champion on the blue brand, you don't need to call yourself the king. You already hold the crown, and that is called the FWWC Heavyweight Championship. I don't really understand it. But, of course, as always, you can count on La Familia to stick their nose where it doesn't belong. And here they are again, once again, executing vigilante justice on behalf of the FWWC when no one, and I mean no one, asked them to do it.
Hey, all I can say about this is Roberto saw one of his brothers in arms being forced to do something that he didn't want to do, that he took it upon himself to come in and help his brother out. It's what anybody else would want to do. La Familia is a brotherhood. You should know this by now, Night Owl.
Well, you know what? You know what? That is one thing that I know for sure. The other thing that I know for sure is that family, and not only La Familia, but the FWWC as a whole, will be put to the test tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central Time, because as you know, the FWWC Pick'em is taking place tomorrow. And I'm very nervous because, as we both also know, General Manager Saint is currently not in his position. Right now, we are currently under the 7 days of mayhem. Based on the loss this past Monday, Saint is currently on ice and is not actively managing the red brand because the 7 days of mayhem. And what that means is that Mayhem defeated Saint on Monday, and now he's in charge of the red brand for 7 days. It just so happens that the Pick'em is right in the middle of it. So the question is, what is Mayhem going to do? Is he going to do right by the red brand, or is he going to let his loyalties to La Familia and his hate for the Saviors of Funk cloud his judgment in what is the very first Pick'em of year 2 in this heated brand battle, Jonesy? I mean, lot of drama surrounding this situation, and I'm just very curious to see exactly how this is all going to play out. But I do know that it's not just about my concerns. It's all about the members of the FWWC universe, and apparently we have quite a few of them still on hold. So why don't we go ahead and try to bring one of those people on?
All right, let's see. Ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do is we're going to do an eeny, meeny, miny, mo type of things. Well, maybe not, because there is one gentleman that has been on hold since before they even started. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you your Intercontinental Champion, the Bishop. What is going on, sir?
Good evening, my brothers. How you doing this evening?
Doing good. How about yourself?
I'm making it. Night Owl, what's going on?
Well, you know what, Bishop, I'm getting a lot of emails. I'm sitting here trying to do a show, but there's clearly a lot of concern concerning the pick'em tomorrow. And I know that you, as one of the representatives for your brand, as the Intercontinental Champion, have probably got your own set of concerns relating to how that is all going to play out tomorrow, starting at 2 p.m. Central Time, right here on the FWWC. I'm curious, as champ, does it concern you to know that the general manager of Red currently is one Marcus Mayhem?
Yes, in a way it does, because you see, I've had my dealings with certain members of La Familia. And you see, Night Owl, when I first came here into the FWWC, my first opponent was one Marcus Mayhem. And he and I, we've had our back and forth. And I'm still interested to see what happens next, because in watching this promo, I just get the feeling he's going to target certain guys. And I'm pretty sure that I'm probably on his list.
Well, you know what? I will say that I share the same fear as you do. I'm curious, though, as we look forward to Money in the Bank, Bishop, and your defense of the Intercontinental Championship, can you maybe help shed some light on who you could potentially be defending it against?
Well, you know, there's one man who's been eyeing my title, and it's one Funky Flex. Now, not too many people know this. Funky Flex is responsible for helping the Bishop get into the FWWC. So I owe him that. But he's been doing a lot of talk lately, and I think he feels that it's going to be a cakewalk trying to get the title off of me. And, you know, I'm one, you see, I've beaten one Nightmare Jones at Universe Mania to be the one real Intercontinental Champion. And I'm not giving this title up without a fight.
Well, you know what, Bishop? I'm happy to hear you say that. You know, these days, it's almost like everybody's trying to run around and prove who the biggest and baddest guy is. And, you know, a lot of that happens behind the microphone and behind the camera. But when it comes to you, sir, you always prove it in the ring. Before we let you go, Bishop, I want you to share with the people what the FWWC means to you. You're a very successful businessman outside of the FWWC, but you decide to invest some of your time here. And a lot of people think it's funny, right? Because all of us that have been around wrestling for a while, we've all heard of e-feds and how taboo they are. And a lot of the times workers and people that are legitimately in business kind of look down on what we do. That's why we don't consider ourselves to be an e-fed. We consider ourselves to be a fantasy wrestling promotion. And the 500 plus members that we have, the events that we do, and the amount of notoriety we get within the business from legitimate wrestling companies, it pretty much speaks for itself. So can you tell us in a few short words what it is that the FWWC means to you?
What FWWC means to me, you know, we all put our bodies on the line in that ring every night, and it means a family. It's a unity, you know, and in a family, you have people that you get into it with, that you don't see eye to eye with, but at the end of the day, you know, we are all fans here. You know, I can remember growing up in Arkansas when I was at Mama Bishop's meet. You know, I grew up as a fan. My earliest members were watching Hogan and Warrior. So coming to the FWWC means I get to live out a dream of being a pro wrestler.
We want to thank you so much for being here, man. We want to appreciate the support. You indeed have been on the line since the very beginning of the show, man, and we cannot thank you enough for that. We are just a couple of moments away from the StarMaker, Kenny Bolin, and I'm very, very excited about that. So, Bishop, thank you for being here tonight, man, and hopefully you're able to enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Take it easy.
Peace.
Jonesy, my understanding is that we have one more caller from the FWWC, and we do have the Star Maker, the home run taker, Kenny Bolin, ready to go in the bullpen. I know he's fired up and ready to go. So why don't we go ahead and bring in our last caller from the FWWC?
This gentleman has been in the FWWC since before I even came into the FWWC. He was the, I guess you could say he was the general of the
UXT Army.
UXT. Yeah, exactly. So, ladies and gentlemen, a man that needs no introduction, a luchador, the Kansas City Assad. What's going on, sir?
Hey, Mayor Jones, how's it going? Hi, y'all. How are you today?
Little nervous, to be honest with you, Luchador. Little nervous, man.
I just have one question for you. Why
Sure, what is
did
it?
you bow to the self-proclaimed King of the Blue Brand Tank? Why did you bow down?
Let's get one thing straight, Nightmare Jones, okay? I did not bow down to that peasant king Tank Westbrook last week, okay? That peasant king beat me with his finisher, knocked me unconscious, and then he turned my body over, making me look like I bowed down to him. I did not bow down to that stupid peasant king Tank Westbrook. I can tell you that for sure.
That makes a lot more sense.
Well, and I only have one question as well. Jonesy, I'm sorry.
And then you bow down to him. So that makes more sense.
That does make more sense. And listen, real quick here, I do have one question and one question only. Luchador, tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern time on the FWWC on Facebook, we're going to have the pick'em, and it's the first pick'em we've had in the second year of the brand battle. Now that you know that it'll be Curtis Black, not against Savior Saint during the pick'em in the draft, it'll be against Marcus Mayhem, being a former general manager. What are your thoughts on how that might play out?
Oh, well, as a former GM, I got to say, I just hope that Curtis Black picked his cards right, on making these current pick'ems. I know we have plenty of free agents and plenty of mystery boxes tomorrow night or afternoon. And I believe that our GM will make the right decisions.
Well, that's a lot of faith. Well, Luchador, thank you for being here, man. We will catch you tomorrow night during the pick'em, sir. And you enjoy your Avengers Endgame day tomorrow as well, man. You take it easy tonight.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night.
Peace.
Jonesy. Hey, you kind of behaved yourself during that segment tonight. I got to admit, I'm very, very proud of you.
You're very proud of me?
You behaved yourself. Well done, sir.
I guess that I do appreciate that. We can only hope that tomorrow during the pick'em that Marcus Mayhem does the smart things and gets rid of the turd of the red brand by the name of Hardcore Sis, because it's Hardcore Sis. She can. The future is not bright with that one.
Oh, geez, Louise, will you stop it? Will you stop it? I mean, seriously, why do you have to go to that level? I mean, Jonesy, seriously.
Well, because it's a freaking Hardcore Sis. She makes it too easy. crazy.
You know what? I guess I can't really argue that. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are ready now to transition to our second featured interview of the evening. We're going to go ahead and give this man a proper introduction. We're going to hit his intro theme, and then we're going to let him walk in like the king he is. And you know what, Jonesy? Nothing makes me more excited than when we're able to bring on these guests. And the reason we're able to do that is because of the support of the Wrestle.
Stupid.
Okay.
I did not hit that.
I love the timing. That's awesome. Well, listen, the only reason we're able to do that is because of the support of the Wrestle Talk family, man. We're having a lot of success right now. We're one of the fastest growing podcasts in the world and the biggest in the Midwest outside of the great city of Chicago. So we want to remind you guys, in order to keep the show going, okay, we want to grow as big and bad as we possibly can. And that will not be possible if you guys don't continue to support and give us the opportunity to keep growing. And I'll tell you what, my goal is to be like Kenny Bolin and have a show like the Bolin Alley, because they're freaking killing it. Not only is his show killing it, okay, he's also like 2 of the top 5 spots on the Jim Cornette Experience, the interviews with him, considering he's had guys like Shane Douglas and Jim Ross on there. But anyway, again, the reason we're able to do this is because of our wonderful sponsorship and our support from esports, KCK Dental Professionals, our new affiliate marketing program with Darko, and of course, these awesome Wrestle Talk podcast mugs that we're having made right now and hand engraved by Wrath Bun Engraving. More info on all those things over at the merch booth at WrestleTalkPodcast.com. That's WrestleTalkPodcast.com/merch booth. All that said, ladies and gentlemen, it is time finally to bring in the StarMaker. So if you were smart enough to tune in tonight, you could walk away the next big star in professional wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, a man that has been in the business since the mid-'80s, rubbing elbows with the greatest wrestlers, managers, promoters in history. I'm talking about Nick Goulas, Jerry Lawler, Jerry Jarrett, working in the Memphis territory. Kenny Bolin has made a name for himself in the world of professional wrestling over the last 20 plus years, and he continues to do it every single time that he drops the Bolin Alley podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, welcome into the Wrestle Talk podcast for the very first time, the StarMaker, King Kenny Bolin.
Hello. What's the language like on this show?
Kenny, this is America, baby. You do what Kenny Bolin does. Is that fair?
America. I'll tell my son to enjoy a soft drink, by the way. Interrupting this podcast so he can have a soft drink. Tell him I said to enjoy. Yeah, you send his lady down the rain. That's real. A Bolin would not do that.
A Bolin would not do that, Kenny. Got to uphold the Bolin standard.
He sent his wife down here to get a soft drink because he's too cheap to buy any. So he sent his wife down here to get a soft drink.
What a freaking slacker.
I'm in a bit of a mood right now, and I'm about to let you know why.
Why, Kenny?
I'm looking up here. I see 243 episodes y'all have done.
Yes, sir.
Correct? Who's the shot caller? Who makes everything chime around there? Who?
It's a night
I
out.
want a name. Who's in charge there?
That would be me.
Nobody wants to own up responsibility for this show right now.
Kenny. Kenny, listen, I'll take full responsibility, but I will admit the only reason I'm a little hesitant is because you're a very big man. And number 2, I have to renew my visa. Yeah. So I don't want to get deported right now.
You got to renew your visa.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to stay on my best behavior.
Well, first of all, the Bolin Alley is in its 15th season. I don't know how many y'all have done. This is my 15th season of the Bolin Alley. Second of all, I'm not 2 of the top 5 shows on Cornette's whatever crappy show he's got. I'm 5 of the top 6. The only person ever to beat me was Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's an absolute legit shoot.
It's not fair.
That is accurate.
Stone Cold, not fair.
Cornette uttered those words out of his mouth himself before he was mad at me because that I remain friends with Vince Russo and that I don't like that piece of shit Brian Last and that I don't like other pieces of shit that he associates with.
Fair enough.
So that's why Jimmy Cornette and I are not friends anymore. But what I want to know is and I've been listening to some of your show, not by choice, but by force.
I'm sorry, sir.
Because you tell me to call in at 9:25, and I'm hearing these clowns on the show. Clowns.
Oh, keep.
I don't know what the hell they're even talking about. I don't know what it was. FWWC? Is that the letters I heard? Will you please, to God, tell me what that stands for?
Sir, it stands for Fantasy Wrestling Worldwide Chapter.
So it ain't even real. I started saying it ain't even real wrestling. Then again, what is?
Exactly.
So I can't really slap you with that. I can't slap you with that. But you get a big star. You get probably the greatest manager ever to work in professional wrestling, and I back it up with the product that I've produced. I created countless wrestlers from dirt. You posted the list in your press release that you put out, I think either last night or today.
Yes, sir.
So you obviously ain't got no Mickey Mouse manager on here. You don't have Downtown Bruno. You don't have Jimmy Hart, who basically made his name in Memphis and making music in the WWE and getting lined up with the Hart Foundation just because his name happened to be Hart. And then he had to use a megaphone so he could make a lot of noise so people could hear him. And then you got Jim Cornette, who was basically known for being with one team, the Midnight Express, who individually were already stars in Memphis before Jimmy ever showed up. And the minute you yanked the Midnight Express away from him, he was an absolute and teetotal failure. He didn't do shit with Yokozuna. He didn't do shit with the new Midnight Express he was handed on the WWE. He dropped the ball and he failed at everything he did. Every company he ever worked for either fired him or went under, including his own. Jimmy Cornette is one of the biggest failures in the history of professional wrestling. My guys that I manage, most of them are still in the business and still making millions of dollars. And to name a few would be Mark Henry, John Cena, Dolph Ziggler, Batista, Brock Lesnar, the countless huge names in the business that I manage that are still making huge money. Name me one guy Cornette managed who's getting any goddamn money today. Well, you name me the guy. I hear cricket. I hear
Never
cricket.
drew a
I
dime.
hear silence.
Not a dime. Not a dime.
Not a dime.
Never drew a
Including
dime.
Cornette. That's
Not a
why
dime.
Cornette.
Not a dime.
That's exactly why Cornette shows up at every convention and every memorabilia show, every comic book show, every Comic-Con, every WrestleCon, shows up at the WrestleMania shows to leech off those fans because he's got to pay for all the debt he incurred over his many years in pro wrestling to where he didn't save his money. Now, some might say, well, Kenny, you're doing a fundraiser. I wasn't on worldwide television for 30-something years because Cornette blocked me at every major company that I could have worked with. So I had to do the best I could at OVW. And let's face it, the pay scale at OVW, even though it was decent for me, wasn't quite as good as it would have been had I been in the WWE for 20 years. Or even WCW back when they had money coming in. Or maybe even an ROH if I wanted to go that far. I won't drop as low as TNA. But so you get a big star on your show and I'm booked and y'all claim I'm going to be on 30 minutes. Well, that's where you're dead wrong. I'm probably going to be on a little longer than that. I don't know when this show cuts off. You might have to go overtime. You might have to air more next week. Because if you think you're going to bring a star like me on your show for the first time, this is my first time ever on this show, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
How long have you been trying to book me and get me on this show?
Approximately.
And then you get me on, then you have the luxury of getting me on, and I actually call in like a decent human being at 9:25. I didn't try to prima donna you. I didn't try to big dog you. I show up at 9:25, and then you all know I'm on the show. You know I'm sitting right here. And then who was the guy you brought on before me? You bring in another fantasy wrestling guy? Leo, or what was his name? What was he on there?
El Luchador. El Luchador to Kansas City.
You're kidding me.
No, sir.
You just bumped the little poop. You just didn't bump him. You just didn't say go away. We have real stars on the show. Call back another day. We don't need you. We have a real, actual, legit star. The man that managed and created John Cena. The man that managed and created Brock Lesnar, Randy Orton, Carlito, Rico Constantino, the Bull Buchanan. The list goes on and on. So many of the women. Mickey James, Maurice, The Miz. I included him with the women. Renee Dupree. The list goes on and on. And now, who was the guy that you said you was proud that he behaved? Is he still there? What was his name?
Nightmare Jones. Nightmare. Speak for yourself
Nightmare
here.
Jones, is he still there? Is the Nightmare still there?
Yes, he is.
I'm still here, sir.
You do realize, Nightmare Jones, that I worked for a guy who had the name Nightmare. Named Nightmare Danny Davis. And Danny Davis probably wouldn't be taken too kindly that you're running around using his name. What makes
I would agree with that.
The name Nightmare? I need to know that.
What?
Well, I mean, I am a big fan of Danny Davis. He is a referee.
You're the guy. You're the one guy who's a fan of Danny Davis. I'm shocked to hear that.
So, Nightmare Jones, Nightmare Danny Davis, we're not the same, but, he's a referee.
No.
He was referee, I'm a referee. So that's kind of a...
No. See, there you go. There's where you didn't do your homework. Number one, in your press release, it says that I started my career in March of 87. No. My son was born in March of 87. I started my career with Nick Gulas in November of 87. It's well documented, so you got to do your homework. And I'm not talking about Danny Davis, the piece of shit referee who couldn't count to 3 if you gave him a head start of 2. I'm talking about Nightmare Danny Davis. The referee was not known as Nightmare Danny Davis. Nightmare Danny Davis was the owner of Ohio Valley Wrestling, where I worked for 17 years, which proves to me, Nightmare Jones, that you're not doing your homework. That you don't really know anything about me or where I come from or the people that I've managed and developed. Do you even know who Rico Constantino is? Do you know who Bull Buchanan is? Do you know who Maurice is? Yeah, you know her because you make Google eyes at her when you see her coming out with a Miz.
A little bit, yes, maybe.
So do you know any of these things? Do I got to start you up? Do I have to make this an educational program? And let me teach you something else. When the king of managing, that's when, as the Miz stole from me, that's when your mouth goes shut. You can now speak.
Well, we believe it or not, Kenny, we were prepared for this sort of onslaught, and our crack audio team prepared this just in case you do what you always do, and that is just right. And here, I believe here it goes.
What I always do. Well, let's hear what your crack audio is. So all you did is prove you're a bunch of Trump supporters, a bunch of Republicans that rely on guns, that rely on violence, that do not rely on verbal skills. You have not impressed me at all. All you've done is told me that you're a bunch of Republicans and a bunch of Trump supporters. That's all you've done.
Well, Joe,
Which makes me would like you even left, by the way. Nightmare Jones, who doesn't know who Nightmare Danny. I'm a big fan of Danny Davis. You don't even know who Danny Davis is.
Oh, dear God.
The referee wasn't known as Nightmare Danny Davis. He was known as Referee Danny Davis, and he kind of sucked at his job, if you want to be technical about it. Are you a referee, Nightmare Jones? Are you a referee?
He is.
Yes,
in
sir.
your wrestling company?
Local areas.
Fantasy referee in your fantasy wrestling company?
Virginia.
He's speaking when I'm speaking. You're not teaching him anything.
I'm trying, Kenny. I'm trying.
Oh, God. All right. I'm here. I've been suckered into this. So go ahead and ask your questions. Let me try and make your show for you. Let me make this the best out of the 243 shows you've had. So this is 243, and this is not 244. This is actually 243, right?
Yeah, according to our stagehand here, yes, it is 243, sir.
Oh, you have a stagehand? What's your stagehand's name? Let's give him a plug while we're at it.
Intern Timmy.
Intern Timmy. My brother's name was Timmy, and he was a blithering idiot. He was a Trump supporter. He was a Republican. I don't speak to him anymore either because he was stupid. Timmy, are you stupid? Are you a Republican? Are you a Trump supporter?
Timmy does not get a microphone, fortunately, because if he did...
He doesn't get a mic. Well, there's probably a good reason for that, because you don't give stupid people microphones.
Yeah.
Now I want to know why he gave But now I want to know why you gave Nightmare Jones a microphone.
Oh, jeez Louise.
If stupid people don't get microphones, how did he get one?
That's
Got him.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Kenny, if Jones, if I may, gentlemen, Kenny, obviously.
Please.
No, yeah, I know. Well, I'm going to do my best here. So, Kenny, obviously.
I told you I was in a mood. It's best to win me over. Don't piss me off further.
No. There's no intention to that. I will say this, though. In our defense, we did do our very best research, and maybe our research was a little off.
Well, no, you didn't do your best research because you got the wrong research. Your best research would have produced the proper information.
Well, best isn't always perfect, Kenny. You know, let's not split hairs here. Best isn't always perfect, and I will say information because on one of your famous top 6 episodes on the Jim Cornette Experience, you were accused many years ago of not only kicking your mom out of the house when she was on vacation down in Florida, but you were also accused of double bagging Kruger meats back when you were going through some hard times. I never got a straight answer. I think that has a lot to do with some of the heat that you have with Jim Cornette. Can you neither confirm or deny either of those 2 stories? Because we never got to the bottom of them on either of the shows that you did on the Jim Cornette Experience.
I have absolutely confirmed all those stories as to what the truth of the matter is.
Okay.
Jimmy Cornette's version, and then there's my version, which is the truth. I didn't technically kick my mother out. She went on vacation, and I had a lovely blonde-headed lady from Australia that wrote me and said, do you have any rooms available for rent? I understand that you rent to many of the WWE contracted talents. I said, are you a contracted talent? She says, no, but my boyfriend's rich and I will pay contract talent money. She said, how much is your room for rent? I said, well, it comes with cable, television, bed, refrigeration. You'll rarely ever have to pay for food because I always eat for free. So the rent here is $550 a month. Well, it was, and I actually jacked it up a couple $100 on her because she made the mistake to tell me her boyfriend was rich. So I said, the rent's $550 a month. And I'm thinking she'll take it or she won't. But she wanted to rub elbows with the StarMaker. She wanted to be where the StarMaker lived because she knows I create and produce stars. So it was worth the $550 a month for her to be under the same roof with me. So she agreed to pay the $550. Well, as a favor to my mother, I let her stay there for $175 a month. So I started doing the math and I said, well, what's going to be more helpful to the Bolin Empire? $550 a month out of this little blonde down in Australia that's 22 years old, or my 68-year-old mother paying $175 a month. So I called her up politely while she was on vacation. I said, Ma Bolin, as they called her, you don't have a home anymore. I rented your room, and an incredible opportunity came up, a financial opportunity. And I have called my sister, and she is willing to take you in at the same money that you pay me if you will watch her kids. And she had 5 kids. So Mom said, what do you mean? And I hung up on her because I didn't want to give her a chance to think twice about it. And then she called my sister. My sister held her part of the deal. She gave Mom the place. But no, she wasn't really kicked out. It was a financial opportunity. Now, as to the double bagging Kroger meat money, that's really false. I was quadrupling Kroger money. And I've told the story 1,000 times. If you want to know the true story, as a matter of fact, I hear YouTube, because that I've made so much money off his damn story, has now yanked that podcast off YouTube after it had over 100,000 listens just on one upload alone.
It did. Probably
hundreds of thousands of listens over the years. They actually yanked the Kroger meat story. Is that true?
Yeah, I was not able to find it again.
I heard. Well, that's what I heard, is that they actually yanked the story.
They did pull it.
How can you do that?
Yeah.
Because nobody can confirm or deny the story's true. But if the story was true, said person made a living off Kroger for 5 years, selling meat, not selling meat, buying meat. I bought it, had a receipt, and you would take half the meat and the receipt to one store and get double your money back. And you would take the other half of the meat to another store and the package that it came in to the store you bought it at and get double your money back. And then you cut from the middle of the meat so you could feed your family and neighbors. So it was actually more than quadruple your money back, because not only did you feed your family, but you got 4 times what you paid for it. And pork loins were expensive. They were about $120 for these big giant ass packages I was buying. The warranty was, well, whoever bought it, I said me, that was a mistake. Whoever was buying that meat. And it was, the policy was, if you're not happy with our meat, we'll double your money back. Well, I found a way to quadruple my money back. And I don't like pork loins, so I'm never going to be happy. So I continued to buy pork loins for 5 years until I found some pork loins I like. Unfortunately for Kroger, I never did find those pork policy. And even Jim Cornette's own mouth said, Kenny, so it wasn't a meat scam, as Jerry Jarrett referred to it as. It was a meat opportunity. And I said, yes, Jimmy, a meat opportunity. So I have answered everything that you claim I didn't answer. So you're not going to gotcha me, son. Not. All
right.
Else. I've had Anthony Scaramucci on my show, son. I can't be gotcha'd. So good try, but you're 0 for 2.
Okay, well, listen, I will say this before I throw it over to my buddy Nightmare if he's composed himself over these last couple of minutes, because I know you kind of pinned him in a corner, Kenny. Well, I'll tell you what, throughout these years, you've done quite a few impressive things. The thing that surprised me the most, and you might be upset by me saying this, is to find out that not only are you one of the greatest managers of all time, but you're also, in your free time, you've managed to become an author. And the book, I probably screwed you too, The Mostly True Stories of Kenny Bolin, is a book that you wrote. So tell us a little bit about what went into the book and what was the inspiration behind it.
Well, basically, it was actually inspired by Jim Cornette. He'd been begging me for years and years, Kenny, you have so many amazing stories, so many accomplishments in and out of professional wrestling. You've done things. You're the talk of every table I've ever sat at. Every time I sit down to dinner somewhere, anywhere in the world, people want to know about Kenny Bolin. People want to know the story.
Is that a true story, Kenny?
The night can't go on. The night cannot go on until we hear a Kenny Bolin story. And that's from the biggest stars in pro wrestling, all wanting to hear about me. So for 10 years, he begged me to write a book. And then finally, I met a man named John Cosper and says, Kenny, if you'll just tell the stories, I'll write the book. Tell the stories. I will take dictation like any good secretary would do. I'll take the dictation and I will write your book if you'll just tell the story.
Wait a minute, Kenny. So you're talking about wait a minute. You're comparing the author of Bluegrass Brawlers, our good friend and member of the Wrestle Talk family, John Cosper. You're comparing him to a secretary?
You've actually had John Cosper, my personal secretary, on this show.
Yes, really? Twice, and he's one of our favorite guests. Come on, Kenny. Come on, Kenny. Give him a little bit more credit than that.
Do you realize how many thousands and more books I sold than John Cosper's Bluegrass Brawlers? And I provided a third of the information in that book. Me and the Prince, Jim Cornette, I say a third, probably half. We provided half of the knowledge of that book. But you know where he made his mistake? My beautiful picture wasn't on the cover. As a matter of fact, I did the afterword in the book. He let Jim Cornette do the forward. Well, that didn't help his book sales any. And where else he screwed up at, my book has 6 different book covers. You know what was wise? You know what the marketing genius was about that? My beautiful picture was on every one of them. A couple of them, 2 or 3 of them with my crown. A couple of them in my beautiful blue vest. One of them did an artist rendition of it of me in black and yellow and white. Beautiful book covers. Have you seen that book cover for Bluegrass Brawlers? If he'd have put me on the cover, realizing that I am the king of the bluegrass, and I better not hear any of those little electronic recordings interrupting me again, or this show will be over. I am the king of the bluegrass. I am the king of wrestling in Kentucky. I'm the king of wrestling in the Mid-South. Well, let's say wrestling managers for sure. I let Lawler have the king of wrestling. I gave him that title when I was 14 years old, when I was known as the king of kickball. They've been calling me the king since I was a kid. Jerry Lawler heard it and stole my name. I didn't put up a fight. I was 14, woman, and got into wrestling with Nick Gould, that he'd give me my name back because he swore that he wasn't going to wrestle past 35. Well, when I was 27, he was 37. It was time for him to retire. He's 70-something damn years old now, and he still won't retire. He's 69. He won't quit. He still wants to be the king of wrestling. He's goddamn 70 years old, King. It's time to shut it down. I had the decency to retire at a young age. I retired, God, in 2012. 7 years ago I retired. And now I have one of the biggest and best podcasts in the world. People don't want to acknowledge it as such because I don't pay to be a part of these big networks and all this shit.
Us either.
No, I'm an independent financier. I keep all the money. I don't share my money with these networks.
Well,
did the show cut off?
No, we're here, Kenny. We're still live.
I'm getting inside info that says the show cut off from a guy in Australia. One of the fans.
Not true. Tell your friend in Australia that we are still live on YouTube. All he's got to do is visit the Wrestle Talk podcast.
I didn't know that.
Well, we're multi-platform, Kenny. I mean, we're
laughing. He's laughing because he thinks you all cut me off.
No, what are you talking about? This is all genius, Kenny. I mean, I know my partner in crime, Nightmare Jones, hasn't been able to get a word in edgewise, but we're huge fans. I mean,
that's probably what saved this show. I heard somebody earlier say, I heard you say in as few and as short of words as you can. The problem was he didn't use few enough words and he didn't use short enough words.
Will you stop it, Kenny?
Too long.
Nightmare Jones, why don't you jump on in here? I know you had some questions for the king, the StarMaker himself, Kenny Bolin. Why don't you let us know what you have on mind?
Redeem yourself. Redeem yourself, Nightmare.
Redemption time, Nightmare. Let's hear it.
Okay, so one of the questions I wanted to ask you is you mentioned that you are friends with probably one of Jim Cornette's most despised people by the name of Vince Russo. Can you tell us about your friendship?
I am very, very dear friend.
Can you tell us about your friendship with Vince Russo?
Repeat the end of that. I didn't hear it.
Can you tell us about your friendship with Vince Russo and how you became close friends?
I'll touch base on it a little bit. And first of all, are you talking on a Campbell soup can? Do you not have the Bolin Media microphones that I use here on my podcast? Are you using Campbell soup cans on the string?
I don't have the Bolin money, so it's just,
you don't have the Bolin Media headphones. You don't have the Monster Intunes. You don't have the Beat the Bolin. You don't have the Bolin Media mics. What do you do for a living? What do you do for a living?
I do, sir.
I promise. What do you do for a living?
I'm a referee.
Yeah, if you're a referee, all right. So there's your love of Danny Davis, not Nightmare Danny Davis, just plain old referee Danny Davis. But okay, so you're a referee. How big a man are you? I'm going to guess. I've never seen you before in my life. I'm going to guess you're 5'2" and you weigh about 120 pounds.
Well,
how close am I?
I'm like 5'3" and I weigh like 210 pounds.
You're 5'3". Well, I had one of it right. I just didn't realize you were as good as you did.
Oh my God.
I had part of it right. I just didn't realize they were feeding you that well at the mental institution. I didn't know.
Pretty close, Kenny. Pretty close.
Pretty close. What? That he's actually at a mental institution and he let him out?
No. The height, not the mental institution thing.
Oh, I thought you meant that he's actually at a mental institution. Okay, I'm just checking.
Oh, geez.
I was just checking. I just wanted to know for sure. Okay, so yes, I am good friends with Russo, and I used to hate Russo. You know why? Because that's how Jimmy Cornette liked it.
What do you mean, bro?
Bro,
what do you mean you hated Vince Russo, bro? I mean, bro, how can you hate Vince Russo, bro?
The man likes the word bro. Am I going to hate him because my girlfriend's dog is named Bro?
Bro.
She named it because she's a big fan of Vince. And she named the dog before her and I were boyfriend girlfriend. My beautiful wife to be, Jenny by the ocean down in San Joaquin, Philippines. She named the dog Bro before she even knew that I was friends with Vince Russo. How about that? The dog's 5 years old. I've only been dating her for 3 years.
Bro.
Was named before she even started dating me. Bro. I'm not gonna hate him because he likes the name Bro. I like to use the phrase fucking moron a lot because you know why? I talk to a lot of fucking morons, so I use that name quite a bit. No offense, referee Jones or Rufus R. Jones or whatever Jones you are.
Jeez Louise. Carry on, Jonesy.
Oh, but no. So Vince Russo, my son said, the Prince, Chris Bolin, my son says, Dad, we got to have Vince Russo on the bowling alley. I said, well, Cornette will lose his fucking mind if we do that. We got to have him on, and let's see if Russo's the piece of shit that Cornette says he is. I said, well, I met Vince Russo once in Nashville, and I must admit, he was very nice to me. I talked to him behind the Titantron. It was the first night the Titantron had ever been displayed in Nashville. Jimmy didn't know what the Titantron was, and when the fireworks went off, Jimmy Cornette literally pissed and shit his pants in fear. He had to go change before he could even do the show because he didn't know the pyro was going off. And Russo, on the other hand, did not piss and shit his pants because he was prepared and knew that pyro was coming. So, but Vince was very nice to me that night. So years later, I gave him a chance to be on my show. A friend of mine hooked us up. The Crying Man. You know, the Crying Dave. You know, the guy that cried at the shows but said it's still real to me, damn it. You know that guy?
Of course we do.
You know that guy?
Well, of course, he's a dear friend of mine. Well, he set up the Vince Russo show because he said, he's a Mr. Russo, the crying guy, Dave Willis, was on Russo's show. And he said, if you really want to have an amazing guest on your show, you'll have Kenny Bolin. So I invited him to do my show first. And I said, if you like how we treat you at my show, have me on yours. Well, it took him about 3 or 4 weeks to respond. He finally said, you know what? I'll do it. I'll do your show. I trust that you'll see what you're about. So me and the Prince interviewed him. We did a 2-hour show. It was the most downloaded bowling alley ever, other than our Diamond Dallas Page episode. We got 175,000 downloads in 30 days. Not too bad. Diamond Dallas Page got 500,000 downloads in 30 days. So he's still a So we had Russo on again. Well, Cornette loses his fucking mind. He didn't speak to me for 6 months. He banned me from his show. Said I hung with bad people. I didn't have no judge of character and all this shit. Well, when I went into the hospital, Vince Russo was the first one to call me. When my son was having some issues, Vince Russo was the first one to call. When my dog died and it was posted on Twitter, Vince Russo was the first one to call. When my mother died, Vince Russo was the first one to call. It wasn't Jimmy Cornette. Wasn't any of my other friends. It was Vince Russo every fucking time. So I finally determined, well, Vince Russo is a better friend to me than Jimmy is. Because every time something good would happen to me, Vince Russo had my back. Whenever anything good that would happen to me that Jim Cornette didn't have anything to do with, Jimmy would shit all over it. When Time Magazine contacted me and wanted to interview me about John Cena, Jimmy shit all over it. Oh, well, it ain't the real time. It's only the internet time. I'm sorry, it wasn't Time Magazine. It was Rolling Stone. Excuse me. I want to get my facts straight, unlike Jimmy Cornette. So Jimmy, but every time anything good would happen to me, Jimmy would shit all over it. And anytime anything good would happen to me, Russo and Bill After and people like that would be happy for me. Jerry Jarrett and countless others. Jerry Lawler. Those people would be happy for me. But Jimmy, my so-called best friend for 42 fucking years, anytime something good happened to me, and if he couldn't figure out a way to take credit for it, he would shit all over it. He always has, always did, and it's my fault because I fucking put up with it. And then but for the 4th time that he ended our friendship because he didn't like that I still spoke to Russo. He didn't like when I accidentally put him on Russo's show. He didn't like that I lit Brian Lastaff up. He didn't like that my kids lit Brian Lastaff up. He didn't like that I gave Brian Last the nickname Houseboy and House Bitch because he ain't made an honest dime in his fucking life. He mooches off his wife and his. He actually lives in New Jersey, but if you look at his Twitter page, it says he lives in New York. He don't. He's a state off. He lives in fucking New Jersey. I know his exact address. I know where he went to school. He didn't study law. He has a degree guaranteed to keep you in unemployment. Some social science degree or some bullshit. But he'll tell you he studied law. He did not. He don't know dick about law. The only thing he knows about is mooching off fucking people. Mooching off Cornette. But Cornette likes it because he's been through a few co-hosts in his day, and he can't find anybody to blow him the way that Brian Last does. And I've had insiders that work for Brian Last say he ain't got a fucking penny to his name, that the only money he makes comes through his meal ticket, Jimmy Cornette, and his wife and his parents. He ain't produced fucking $1 and God knows when. So fuck him, fuck the whole goddamn bunch. And I don't need any of them. I've done just fine with fucking out them.
You have.
Of course, Cornette told me I would fall on my face if I started working with Russo, and I made 5 times the money with Russo I made with Cornette because Cornette didn't pay me. Cornette paid me to mass produce his DVDs and then bitched about paying for that. So, and I believe it or not, I don't hate Jimmy. I don't wish him anything bad. And I know some shit that he probably wouldn't want to get out, and I'd never reveal it. And he may know some shit on me I wouldn't want to get out. And I feel pretty confident he wouldn't reveal it. Because if he does, then I got to play hardball with him. So let's hope it never comes to that. I don't wish him anything bad. But if he ever talks shit on me like he does Russo, and if he ever claims he's going to whip my ass, I will give him every fucking opportunity. My health is not the best right now, and I'd fight Jimmy right now if he fucking showed up here wanting to fucking fight. I wouldn't go looking for a fight, but if he came looking, I sure as fuck wouldn't back down. I promise you, once I've had my surgery and I get all this fucking weight off me and get to where I can fucking breathe and walk again, I assure you he does not want to fuck with me, because for 59, I handle myself pretty goddamn good. I can't run you down. I can't chase you down. But if you're stupid enough to get within swinging distance of me, I promise you I can hang with most people. Maybe not Brock Lesnar anymore, but I can hang with most people. You ain't going to fucking punk me out, especially Jimmy Cornette, who's never won a fucking fight in his life. So you wanted to know the truth about the matter. That's the truth about the matter. As a matter of fact, when he said, well, I'll fight Russo and I'll have $5,000 on me, and if Russo can whip me, he can have it. I said, well, Jimmy, give me that opportunity. Put $5,000 on you and let me fight you. And Jimmy's immediate answer, immediately out of his mouth, was no. He didn't want to give me the opportunity to beat his ass and take $5,000 off from him, because he knows I could do it. As long as he didn't try to run from me. And as bad as Jimmy's knees are, he ain't going to get too fucking far away. No way. So, and Brian Last won't talk no shit on me either. Not serious shit, because I know exactly where he lives. The Prince hates him just as bad as I fucking do, because he disrespected the Prince and talked shit on him, not realizing that we knew where he lived. And ever since he's found out we know where he lived, and that we don't take too kindly to people talking shit on us, guess what Brian Last don't do anymore? He don't open his fucking mouth about us. And if he ever wants to come here, I'll open the door and let him in, and we'll see how fucking tough he is. He's not too fucking tough, I'll promise you. He, just like Cornette, ain't never fucking won a fight in his life. And just like Jim Cornette, ain't never worked a fucking day in his life. Because I can call wrestling work. It was a fucking pleasure and an honor to do professional wrestling for as long as I did. And Jimmy ought to be thankful too, because Jimmy never had to work at a Kroger. He didn't work for Humana. He didn't work in the mortgage business. He didn't work in real estate. He didn't do all the things I did. I had to educate myself and make money in many different aspects in life, including Kroger, which I worked for 5 years. And the meat scam, they say, lasted 5 years too, if I actually did that. So some of my idiot friends are writing me, telling me they can't find the fucking show. So when you have stupid people, they can't fucking figure out how to work the internet.
Well, Kenny, here's the thing, man. The honesty and the passion that you bring is the reason that you've been killing shit for 20 years in the pro wrestling. And you know what? I can listen to you.
People know I don't fuck them over. My word is my honor. My handshake is my honor. And they know if I'm speaking it, I'm telling the truth, unless it's a fucking wrestling angle on TV. And if you can't tell the goddamn difference, then I feel sorry for you. Well, and you know what? No, I'm not, because I was pretty good at what I did on TV. And the reason we drew good crowds is because people did believe what I said on TV. They did believe that if I said me and Cena and Rico were going to beat your ass Tuesday night at the Louisville Gardens, they actually believed it. But when I tell you shit here, I'm not booking a show at the Louisville Gardens. I'm not trying to sell a crowd at the St. Teresa's Church or some show in Radcliffe, Kentucky. I'm talking the legit truth here. And I promise you, if Brian Last is so fucking tough and wants to run his fucking mouth, all he's got to do is flap those gums. And if he wants me and the Prince to come up to New Jersey, where he lives, not New York, and we do know where it's at, or if he wants to come here and be a really big tough guy and knock on my door and talk shit, I'll be glad to open the door for him. And I won't even need the Prince to take care of him. He won't talk shit on neither one of us. I promise you that.
Well,
and if he don't think and the Prince goes to New York twice a year, if he don't think the Prince won't knock on his door, he's got another thing coming. And we ain't threatening anybody. We wouldn't dare hit anybody that didn't hit us first, but we will certainly have a stern talking with you and tell you it might be wise you don't open your fucking mouth to us, because we don't play that shit. Like I said, I might have been I might be 59, I might be on disability, but I promise you, most people ain't going to talk no fucking shit to me, and especially if he ain't packing a gun.
Wow.
And I know these Republicans love to pump guns because they're chicken shit. So
I know. Well, listen, we had one of the watchers, the viewers here, say I thought only Trump supporters were about violence, but clearly, when it comes to personal defense rights, Kenny Bolin is a hardcore advocate.
I'm not talking violence. I'm talking defending my honor and defending when people talk shit about me.
I agree.
I'm not talking about any violence. Only if violence wants to be stowed out my way.
Personal
I've never
liberty.
thrown the first punch in the, let me make something real clear to whoever thought that. I've never thrown the first punch in a fight in my life, but I've thrown the last one every motherfucking time. I played a coward and a chicken shit on television, not in real life. You know why no one fucked with me in the locker room? Because they knew better. You know why nobody fucked with me in real life? Because they knew better. And my son is 10 times tougher than I am. So, and I guarantee you nobody fucks with him. And, but he knows a lot of shit I never knew. I was just a scrapper and a fighter. I kind of learned like Jerry Lawler did. I didn't know karate. I didn't know jujitsu. My son knows all that fucking shoot fight and shit. I don't know any of that stuff. But I also know ain't no one ever whipped my ass in my life, and I sure shit didn't back down from any fights either. And if you think I'm ever going to back down from a fight from anybody like Jimmy Cornette, Bruce Pritchard, Brian Last, or any of these fucking talk show hosts I've had, they got another fucking thing coming. I don't back down from anybody, not at 59, not on disability. And you give me about 1 year once I've had my surgery and getting better health, I really dare you to fuck with me then. I'll be 79 eventually, and you know what? I ain't guaranteed I ain't going to smack you in the fucking face then if you talk shit on me. And especially if you talk shit on my wife. And I've actually had some dumb fucks try to do that too. And I got one of them put in jail recently. He was in another country and thought he was safe, but they come and locked his ass up because I'm well connected all over the world. So talk shit on me. I might not be able to reach you, but I got good people that can. And that little motherfucker that was talking to my entire family and my girlfriend ended up in jail. And now he's got a warning. Talk shit again, motherfucker, and we will throw away the key on your ass. And now he knows better. And he don't say shit no more, and he never will. Well, because the long arm of Bolin reaches a long way. I told you guys I was in a mood tonight.
Hey, well, I'll tell you what, Kenny, listen, just out of respect to time, we don't want this thing to get completely shut off mid-conversation. We're just going to ask you for two things, man, and it may be too much to ask. If it is, you let us know. Number one, please promise us that in the coming weeks, you'll be willing to come back and do part two, because I feel like we only got a few questions in, and we did about 45 great minutes.
Talking. I didn't give you a chance to answer too many questions.
No, and it's okay, Kenny. When we book our guests, we do our best to understand who they are, and this is exactly why people have loved you and hated you for well over 20 years in the business.
How many listeners you got listening right now? What kind of comments are you getting?
Right now, I've got Kenny Bolin is the president of his own fan club. I've got another guy saying Kenny punked out Brock at OVW. I got another guy saying, listen.
Tell that little chicken shit because I'm the president of my own fan club to come say that to my face. I won't do it. I bet you he ain't got a name on YouTube because he's a little chicken shit. He ain't gonna say nothing. You know who the president of my fan club is? Mark fucking Cuban, motherfucker. That's who my fan club president is. The owner of the goddamn Dallas Mavericks. That's who's the owner of my fan club. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Chris Jericho. That's who's fans of presidents of my fan club. You unknown little uneducated piece of shit.
All right.
Talk to me to my face or shut your fucking mouth.
All right. Well, Kenny, listen. So part one, please promise us you'd be willing to do this with us again in the near future.
Well, if you keep referee Jones off the show, I'll think about it.
Hey, we can put him in timeout, Kenny. You're definitely worth the time. At number two, man, I know that there's something near and dear to your heart outside of your beautiful fiance, which we're very happy for you. Also, we're cheering for you on your weight loss journey, and know that you're a big time fan.
Jenny by the ocean. I got to give her a shout out.
Go ahead.
By the ocean. I love her with all my heart. She's asleep right now because she had to work all night. But I will see her at 5 a.m. as I always do.
Well, Kenny, that's huge because I'm a married man. My man Nightmare Jones, believe it or not, is also a married man, and that's always very important. We actually have a rule here on the show.
I thought she was married. I thought you was married to Nightmare Jones. There for a minute.
No. Wait a minute now. Not to hate on anybody, but that's not the way this works. I'm actually married to a very hot Latina myself.
To each their own. I don't judge, man. I don't judge.
Well, me either. I'm just clarifying. Just clarifying. And Kenny, number two, your show and what you're doing over there and the podcasting. You do this on a really regular basis, man. Tell us what people need to know to make sure they do not miss your show.
Well, we do the Facebook Lives once a week. I usually do those on Wednesday nights in the neighborhood of 8 to... last night I did a special 10 o'clock show that actually did very well. Normally 8 o'clock, but I didn't want to... well, what was last night? Tuesday?
Yes, sir.
Oh, the reason I went at 10 last night is I didn't want to go up against SmackDown. I wanted as many as my wrestling fans... even though I can't imagine people watch SmackDown, I didn't want to lose too many of my wrestling fans.
That's fair.
But no, we're also raising money for my medical fundraiser. I'm having 4 surgeries in 3 months. 2 of them are done. Another one comes up May 6th, and then knee replacement surgery after that. Oral surgery still to be part 2 of that. So technically it's 5 surgeries. And I am doing a medical fundraiser for that for people that enjoy listening to my show. I'm not asking for a handout. If you enjoy my show, make a donation. If you hate the show, why are you listening? And if you also enjoy my merchandise, my shirts, hats, DVDs, Beats by Bolin headphones, the Bolin Media microphone.
Bolin Club, baby.
Write me and order them. All that stuff helps, man. All of it helps. And we've raised 4,400 of 9,500 we're trying to raise. And we're hoping to raise about another $5,000 here in the next 30 some odd days.
That's awesome. Well, we'll make sure our media, Kenny, we'll make sure our media relations department reaches out and gets all that info so that we can share it with all the followers of the Wrestle Talk podcast as well.
So I can say it here on the air. It's Kenny Bolin at msn.com. For my PayPal account, you can donate there, or you can go to my Facebook page. And if you tab down far enough, there is a link that you can click and you can donate there anywhere from $5,000 to $5,000. I hope somebody donates $5,000, but probably not. Maybe you guys.
Hey,
maybe Rufus R. Jones over there will donate $5,000.
I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, that is the.
I won't look him up. If he donates $5,000, I won't look him up and beat his ass. How's that?
Oh, come on, he's a mountaineer. You can't do that to a fellow American. Come on now.
Well, if he's a mountaineer, I guess I'll cut him some slack.
Exactly. Kenny Bolin, Nightmare Jones, your boy Renee Martinez, the Night Owl, signing off. XWE in Salina, Kansas this Wednesday. If you're not supporting into wrestling, you've got a problem. Indie wrestling is where it's at. It's where we all started. It's where the lifeblood of pro wrestling business is today. Remember, guys, Kenny Bolin, the StarMaker, Kenny Bolin on all social media platforms. We'll be back next week, and hopefully we can do part 2 of this interview in the next couple of weeks because Kenny is definitely got a lot more people he can shit on in a 30 to 45 minute.
My apologies to all your previous guests that I've embarrassed tonight and made seem boring as fuck.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. An apology from Kenny Bolin. That's worth celebrating, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. Nightmare Jones, Wrestle Talk family. That's it. 243 in the books. We will see you guys next week, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time, right here at the WrestleTalkPodcast.com. Intern Timmy, hit me with that shit, boy. Good night, everybody. Grace and peace.
Oh, fuck you can't even sing.
There's the same thing with the book.
Ooh, baby, I like it raw. Yeah, baby, I like it raw. Ooh, baby, I like it raw. Yeah, baby, I like it raw. Shimmy, y'all, shimmy, yeah, shimmy, yeah. Give me the mic so I can take it away. On the national chart, bon voyage. Yeah, from the home of the Dodgers, Brooklyn Squad. Who tank your beats on the floor? Train on the power dance, just so tall. When you didn't even touch my skill, you got